No, you good.
So the whole anti TikTok pages. I want to cover this. So you weren't the first, right? But you were like the second through the 17th.
No, no. You're outing me. I was the fourth.
So you got to ask yourself, why do you want to do this? What keeps you motivated to stay proactive and get bad guys off the street?
The facts is a big cannon against a little tiny gun of opinions, because we've all heard people give us their opinions.
Let's talk about how easy it is to get narcotics in this country.
Once they're in this country, anywhere within 2 days, the drugs will be in our cities.
Because we know knowledge is power.
For my own podcast, I'm not doing it in my house because I want to have like shitbirds on too. So I'm gonna find a warehouse or something. Like that's what Tyler and those guys from Man Out Here will have is like a warehouse.
Yeah, that's
But
dope.
but for like being on them, I should have my fucking background and all that shit. So I'll work on that.
So you're gonna start your own and just run with it, or what?
Hmm.
And you bring criminals on?
I don't know. Well, I guess I just throughout my career, dude. So I don't know. Like, I got a guy who was like the catalyst of like the 2012, 13, 14 pill mills, and he went to like federal prison and got out, and he just got commuted by Biden. So
Interesting.
he grew up with my sister, and his story is he feared me more than anybody else in town because I was a dope cop at the time. And I honestly, I did crack. We'll talk to you, like I said, we get all that, but I was a crack guy. I didn't fuck with pills. I liked crack. I liked the hood, but he was so terrified. So like, we actually talk now. Like he called me the other day and he's like, blah, blah, blah. So he's got like just what? I mean, he was going to Colombia, moving cocaine from Colombia all over. He got kidnapped in the Bahamas for like 3 days and was in a fucking shed. Like he was running dope across the like he's got fucking stories,
So
and he
beyond
likes
doing the
me.
pills, he was like
Yeah,
trafficking, like
he started in cocaine. He started cocaine trafficking from the Bahamas through Colombia, and then when the pills got obviously getting kidnapped in the Bahamas and shit wasn't very lucrative and very exciting. So he was like, I got to do something a little safer. So he says it's the biggest mistake he ever made, but he went into business with another dude and started opening the pill mills, and the other dude ended up being just another guy from town that was reckless. He actually tried to convince the feds that like there's a whole story with me outside. I'll tell on mine, but they like tried to convince the feds like I was involved and I was giving this guy information and all kind of crazy shit. I obviously wasn't,
the bad guy
but
try to convince?
oh yeah, so he was actually getting information from a girl I was dating, and I didn't know it. She was like going through my phone when I was sleeping, and I was a dope cop, so I had a lot of information, but um, they were actually getting the information from another cop at the agency, but to keep the heat off of that guy, they actually blamed me. And
Holy shit.
it was wild. I had an informant that was in, and she knew about it. Like it was a bunch of like it's wild. So from that, like the spinoff is like there's documents out there with my name on it that claim like this guy FBI investigated me and all kinds of crazy shit. But obviously, I always say that feds can indict a ham sandwich, and I didn't get arrested. So, um, needless to say, but he knows a lot of that stuff, and it's pretty. Like I said, being a small town cop in that dope game is tough because DA. I was working a DA task force, and they put me in these bad situations, arresting guys I went to school with, and setting these guys up, and it was rough. But I would like to have him on. Like he's like working on a movie deal in Hollywood,
Damn.
and like he's got a. It won't be my name, but he's actually got a person in the fucking movie that's going to be like me that he was scared of, and he's like, he's got a pretty big following on TikTok, and he's like, oh, you should come arrest me, and we can make a big skit about it. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet, but the podcast wise, like I would like him. That would be interesting. Some of these guys, I
Yeah.
still, I still run into informants that I've dealt with over the years now that I'm gone. And I mean, how interesting would it be to sit down with like a dude that was like a burglar and say, what did you look for, how did you sneak around town? What were you looking for? What the cops tipped you off? Like, I think that's good information for guys.
No, I think it's cool. I think especially if they're willing
So
to open up about it.
yeah, I got, and like I said, my informants still talk to me. Like when these guys called me and I told them I retired, they were fucking devastated. Like I got black dudes in the hood, and I'm like, dude, I got something for you, man. I'm like, I'm gone, dude. It's like what? I'm like I'm done, man. So, and it's not the same anymore. The old informant game was way different than it is now.
Really? What is,
Oh, yeah.
what's changed?
My
Violence
biggest
or?
thing is no, it's so there was a more. I think there was more intimacy, and I say this not in a fucking sexual way because that's a bad word to use. And there was a lot of that. With there was more because of like I think social media and all that stuff. There was more back then. You had a lot more conversations. Texting wasn't a thing. There was no texting. It was all phone calls and it was all meetups. Meet up your foreman to brief them. So there was more interpersonal skills required. And what I banked on, what my specialty was making these dudes feel important. And that's where I succeeded in my dope career was these guys felt, and I did care about them in a way, like they weren't going to come to my house for dinner, but I enjoyed the results of their work. So I was very friendly with them and I would answer the phone at 3 a.m. and go meet up with them with, stuff and get the information. So now it's all just technology, texting, meet me here. I think it's different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think that's society in general, though. We've lost
Yeah.
that ability to communicate face to face
Yep.
or even like on the phone. It's all text message or DMs or whatever. It's never
And
like,
I think a lot of those, I think that's like, especially what you do in interdiction, that the interpersonal body language skills are the most important thing. I'm sure for you guys, I don't even have to ask you. I'm telling you, I know it. That's got to be one of your most important things. And you lose that with technology and Facebook and Instagram and texting, and you don't. These new guys aren't used to reading that body language, and you can see it. All the videos we watch where you like, well, this guy's going to get stabbed or this guy's going to get punched in the mouth any second, and then it happens, and it's like the older guys are all like, bro, you didn't see that coming. It's like,
yeah, I
we
agree.
all saw it coming. Everybody saw it coming, but the new guy, it's like, ugh.
I mean, it's even dealing with people that I don't even know, like even dealing with victims of crimes and trying to have a conversation. Yeah, you're right. It's completely different. You have more time on than I do, but my 17, 18 years, it's changed
Yeah, I mean,
dramatically.
I'm just slightly more. I mean, 23. So I mean, I started in '01. So we're not barely different. It's a different world. It's a different. My wife is excuse me. My wife is a patrol sergeant with 9 years in, but she's older. She's 42. My wife is newer at the job, 9 years, but she's also intelligent and she's had a life. She's 42. So it's like she sees it from more of our perspective as more experienced and mature, but then supervises 22-year-olds that never been punched in the mouth and never been in a fight or never like had a real conversation with anybody. So it's
Yeah.
frustrating for her as well.
Yeah, that life experience translates probably pretty well. So she got out when
Mhm.
she was what? You said for
Yeah, she was
33?
yeah, 16 she started. That's when we met. It's a really cool story. Um, but yeah, so she started like her husband was a cop in one county down, and she was a nurse of all things, and not that kind. She's very alpha, and she got into it. And I remember the first time I met her, I was like, "Bro, this bitch is like tough." Like I was scared of her. And she's very smart and savvy, and she's a firearms instructor for 6 hours. She's like one of the few females in the nation that like teaches for a SIG and does all that. Like, just she's a great instructor and all that. So, but like seeing her frustrations as dealing with it too and we're different cops. Like she hates dope. She was more like DUI, catching burglars and that kind of like investigation, patrol investigation stuff. And I was always somebody else is going to work this fucking DOI. I'm not doing it. And I
The same,
wanted,
it's
I was a dope guy, like completely dope guy in warrants. So very different cops, but
cool. With 3 years as a United States Army Airborne Infantry and 23 years in law enforcement, 3 with the city, 20 with the Sheriff's Department, Mike brings a wealth of experience to the table. His distinguished career includes 6 years in narcotics, 4 years in criminal investigations, service with the DEA task force, as well as the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. He spent 6 years on SWAT, served as a street crimes and patrol supervisor, and mentored future officers as an FTO. Once TikTok famous, as a dancing cop, Mike has since reformed and now runs one of the best meme pages in the game, using humor to bring levity to a dangerous and serious profession in law enforcement. Mike from Copville.
Well, let's back it
you wanna
all the
go?
way back up, man.
Yep.
Where,
Yep.
do you want me to use your real name?
You
Like,
can call me Mike. Yeah, call me Mike. I don't want to talk my last name. Just say Mike. Mike.
Gotcha.
They're all gonna find out anyway. Like I said, Tyler threw me under the bus for being on TikTok, and that's a great story. But
I'm trying.
just Mike.
I'm,
Mike is fine. All you gotta do is look my name up, and it'll pop right up. I did it the other day. It's not as bad as it was, but my demotion will pop up. I was demoted for pursuit arrest, and then there's a bunch of life-saving awards and actually cool shit that's mixed in. But that TikTok's there too. So Tyler fucking fucked me.
I can't wait to
Yeah,
see
yeah. Oh, it's great. So Mike is fine.
it. That works. Let's back it all the way back up, man. Like, where were you born? Where'd you grow up? That kind of stuff.
Okay, so I was born in Suffolk County, New York, right outside New York City. And when I was like three-ish, my mom and my family moved to South Jersey. That's where I grew. I lived in South Jersey till I was 17. And then I moved to Florida, Vero Beach, Florida. Got down here, kind of stumbling around jobs, high school, and I never dreamed of being a cop, never had cop on my brain, never played cops and robbers, never thought about it. And I was like a kind of lost soul 18-year-old GED, and I was playing softball on a team that I had no idea the chief of police for the local agency was on the team with me. So that was where the police thing came from. And kind of met him. He was like, "Hey, you go in the military, and I'll have a job for you when you get out."
Nice. What part of, you said South Jersey?
Yeah, Ocean City. I was Egg Harbor Township, but Ocean City was like the popular area right there. Jersey Boardwalk, like I was talking Christmas yesterday at my family, and the coolest place to grow up. Like I couldn't imagine growing up anywhere cooler than I was in the sticks, but I was 10 minutes from like the Jersey Boardwalk where you had the pizza, the carnival rides, the ice cream, the waffle ice cream, like the caramel corn, all that cool stuff. So it was just a really neat place to grow up.
Jersey Shore area is cool. It's not as like the show makes it sound.
No, and that was
that's
Seaside Heights was north of me. I'm south. I was further south, so it was a dry town actually. Ocean City had no alcohol, so it was very
interesting.
family oriented. Yeah, very family oriented.
Cool. And then why did you guys move to Florida? Is that family or is that you?
No, actually, it's funny. My mom was a ultrasound tech in the hospital. My dad was a truck driver, and my mom made really good money back then. And when the medical boom happened, and back when she was doing it, you didn't even need a degree. They just taught you how to be an ultrasound tech.
Damn.
And my mom made very good money. My dad actually did too. That's a real funny story. He worked for like a trucking company in Atlantic City, New Jersey, which was mob still back then. And till I was older, I had no idea that he worked for Nicky Scarfo. There's a documentary about like a gangster, and they liked him. And I remember many times the door would somebody would knock on the door, and it was two dudes dressed like the movie gangster movies, and they'd be like, "Hey Gord, we got a job for you. Can you take this roll off from over here and take it up to North Jersey and just drop it at this yard?" And my dad would go do it, and he had never asked any questions, never worried about anything. And all I know is my mom said that he made so much money doing that at one point our grandfather clock had nothing but cash stacked up from these guys asking him to take two jobs. So my mom, very obviously decent childhood. They took us to Disney every spring break. Every spring break that I was a kid, from 6 years old to like 15, my mom booked a week-long trip to Disney. And I guess in my head, I associated that all of Florida was Disney. So as I got like 17, I'm like, I want to live in Florida, like just short of 17. I want to live in Florida. I want to live in Florida. So she happened to find this job down here at Vero Beach, and we moved down here. Obviously, it's not all Disney, but pretty cool town.
What so when you said a rollback, is he moving cars for people? Like, was that
No,
what
like the roll off dumpsters, like the big things,
Oh,
like
damn.
the construction dumpsters. So
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
only imagine. I can only imagine who or what was in it. And I actually had a friend I grew up with. His last name was Falcone, and there's a documentary on that as well. And he never had a dad. I always wondered where his dad was. Well, his dad was part of a famous trial where he got whacked by like this mafia crew, and they actually did a movie about it. And so it was like a little, like I said, weird little town of like kind of near the city, Atlantic City, the casinos and all that stuff. And I didn't know till I was older, much older, when I started seeing these documentaries and stuff. I'm like, bro, I grew up with that dude. Like I remember him, and his dad was like whacked by the mafia. So I'm like, oh my God.
Italian? Are you guys?
Yeah, I'm Greek and Italian on my mom's
Okay.
side, and then German on my dad's. So I get a little bit. People think I'm Hispanic sometimes, bald head, and, you know, or Italian a little bit. No, I'm gray. You know that I am, right?
And then, so at 17, you and the family moved down there. Any siblings by
Hmm.
the chance or anything?
I have a sister,
Okay. Older, younger?
younger.
And then in high school, sports or anything or
Yeah, I
athletic?
played. Yeah, I played football. Hockey was big up in Jersey, so I played a lot of hockey. Baseball. I came down here. I got really good at basketball. I was at ninth grade. I could stand under the basket and dunk a basketball. Just lanky. I was only 5'10", 5'11". I think at my best I'm 5'11", but I could jump. I don't know where it came from. So I got really big in basketball, but I was terrible in school. Grades sucked. I really didn't play high school sports. I played more intramural and rec leagues and stuff like that. And like I told you, I ended up dropping out and getting my GED.
Was the family pissed when you dropped out?
Nah, my mom. So yeah, my mom was pretty disappointed. So my grandfather, I'm sorry, my grandmother's brother had aspirations that I was going to be go to the Air Force Academy. That was like his big thing. Like yeah, he sent me. He worked for. He wasn't in the military, but he worked on Air Force bases. I remember he would be in Egypt a lot and overseas, and he worked like as an engineer for like with the Air Force. So he would come back and forth, and he always sent these big magazines from Colorado Springs and Air Force Academy, and he had these dreams that I was going to go be a pilot or something like that. And I didn't quite make it.
You look back, do you regret it? Or are you happy with everything the way it turned
Nah,
out?
you know what? I mean, we always regret things. I don't have that like constant anxiety, like, oh, my life, I could go back and do this, that. But obviously, we would all change some things, but I enjoyed being a cop, man. I really liked doing what I did, and I think I did it for the right reasons. And I didn't, I mean, I wouldn't change much. I would be a little smarter maybe, but in school and probably get better grades and maybe have some other options. But I think I'm pretty happy how things turned out.
You probably wouldn't have been the cop that you are if you didn't have
No,
some
yeah,
of that
yeah.
little rebelliousness in
You learn
you.
a little bit. Yeah, you learn a little bit when you're a dropout GED running around town.
Yeah. What about your sister? Law enforcement?
It's local. No, no. Like
Okay.
I'm the only cop ever, except for my daughter. My daughter's actually it's corrections. My
Okay.
oldest daughter. But nobody. She was just did just regular jobs, not in medical field and stuff. And nobody ever was law enforcement. I'm the first one in my family.
Nice. So you said military? How old were you when you went to the military?
Joined the United States Army at 19. I left April 11th, 1996. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, 13 weeks of basic infantry school, and then I went to airborne school for 3 weeks. And I was transferred to Fort Polk, Louisiana for 3 years. I served from April of 96 to April of 99.
So you got out prior to 9/11.
Just missed it. I was a city cop when 9/11 happened. You sign up for 8 years no matter what. So you have your inactive reserve time. And I was a combat MOS. So I was excited. I thought for sure these guys are going to call me any day after 9/11 because I think, honestly, that was one of the worst things that ever happened to America, but one of the best rallying times of like camaraderie and America and like getting together as a community and a society and a country. So I was like, man, I know they're going to call. Like I'm a combat MOS, airborne infantry. Any day this phone's going to ring, I'm going to get to go overseas, and it never happened.
Wow. Yeah, I always say, I mean, when it comes up, like September 11th was awful as it was. I wish that we could go back to September 12th, like having that camaraderie, everyone.
It was like, yeah, it was like 6, 8 months, a year, and then it kind of like faded. But yeah, it was like I can imagine like what World War II era, because I still always say World War II era was probably the greatest generation of Americans, in my opinion, as far as camaraderie and service and country and 17-year-old kids lying about their age and trying to get in the military, and you'll never see anything like that again. So
No.
I kind of equate that to like the equivalent of our World War II of like that window of time where race, color, ethnicity, that we were American. We red, white, and blue. We all bled the same color, and we were all the same color, and everybody wanted to, you know, fight for America.
Yeah, that's what I was like freshman in college, and my major was education, and then September 12th, and some buddies that were going down the law enforcement avenue, but it was definitely September 11th because I went back and I told my grandparents I was gonna be in the military, and they're like, how about we go this route and we'll pay for your college? And I was like, okay, like fair enough. Meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, that's good.
So then after the military, you spent what, 2 years of
3 years
came out?
military. No, I came out, I came out, and got hired immediately to the Vero Beach Police Department.
Okay.
And because of the cycle of time in the academy and all that stuff, I came in as a dispatcher, which I think was one of the best things that could ever happen. Was learning the lingo and learning what they were talking about and learning the language and being comfortable with the radio. And then after um, about a year, I got into the academy, or later that year, 99 into 2000, somewhere in 2000, I started the academy and I graduated the academy in February of 2001.
Okay. So going into the dispatch aspect of it, was that part of your profession? Like, did you have to get that in order to be a cop, or was that
No,
just
no,
something
I had no, I had nothing. I actually applied at the Vero Beach Police Department to be an officer before I went in the military. And they're like, you're 19, you have no college, no history, you got a GED. And they're like, nah. So the chief is like, go in the military, get some experience. That'll subside for college because that agency is huge about degrees. He's like, well, we can work with a little bit of college and the military and go get your experience and come back. So that was what I did. The dispatches happened to be, if I would have tried to go straight to patrol, it would have been no job for a good amount of time, hiring process, police academy. Back then, they weren't really sponsoring anybody like they do nowadays where they pay for it. So he's like, well, I can put you in dispatch. You got a job, making money. And then, so it was just by random, but I think it was actually a super blessing as far as the experience that I gained while I was in there.
My agency has hired a lot of our dispatchers. Well, not, I don't know about a lot, several, but when they come, I guess when they become cops, it just seems that they have that accelerated knowledge, talking on the radio. That's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
For me,
huge.
I was like afraid to even like key up. I don't know why. So like, and then you see some of these other guys that come out of dispatch and they're like ready to go, like know the codes, like just they
Yeah,
can.
that was a huge help. Huge help.
And then, so you said you went 2 years at that agency and then left?
Three. I left December of '04, and then
Okay.
I went to the Indiana County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Any reason? More opportunity?
So the story told the story. It was a city police department. It's like 10 square miles. It literally would be equivalent to like one zone at the sheriff's office, and we had 4 zones. Very micromanagey. Um, the moment I knew it was time is I started like scanning the sheriff's office, and I would hear everything going on over there and hear like the chases and all. But I started to get into the dope thing, which was my thing, and I was hitting the apartment complexes and stuff where I knew as dope was, and it was tough because there wasn't. Again, it was a very non-hard charging agency, so there's very limited exposure and training from guys, even FTOs that were into that kind of stuff. But I started to get the knack for it. And I remember calling for a SOK9 to respond to a traffic stop where I'm pretty sure the guy had, dope. So the guy shows up and comes up to the car, he runs his dog, and blah, blah, blah. As he's doing it, the guy throws the dope in his mouth and starts eating it. And I watched dude from the sheriff's office grabs a dude by the neck, just pulls him out the car window. The smoke, like Charlie Brown smoke fume goes up, and this guy, we're on the ground, and next thing you know, he's handcuffed, hands him to me, and he's like, "All right, man." He's like, "I'll do something for your guy," and he drives away, and I'm just like, "What the fuck just happened?" I'm like, "We don't do that here." Like, I'm like, I don't even know where to begin because like I said, it was so laid back at the city, like that was unheard of, and I'm like, I don't even know if I can like, is that legal what he did? Like, I was like naive to all this. I'm like, what happened? So I was like, I want to go do that. Like I want to be involved in this more often. So I kind of made some friends with the sheriff's office as we started to bump into each other on the zones, and kind of like I used to start sitting near the county city line, and they would come out the hood kind of bump the hood area kind of bumped right up to one of our zones in the city. And there was one little area we had that was kind of full of dope. It was an old World War II barracks because our airport was used in World War II, and it was like little shacks, and they were like weekly rentals. And I started realizing this is where the dope is in the city. It was right. So I started patrolling that area more heavy, and I started bumping into the sheriff's office guys more and more. And I'm like, they're like, man, you got to come over here. We're chasing cars. We got crack being sold on corners, and I'm like, I got to do that. So that was really my time, I was like, I got to go do more than just this.
Overall, the department was good though, but just didn't have a lot out
Yeah,
there.
it was very small. There was like one sergeant on a shift. There was 4 zones. There was like 3 detectives. There was 2 dope detectives, 2 canine. It was just like I'm looking at this going, you know, there's 18 dudes working at the sheriff's office at night, and there's 4 of us. Like they're just statistically, it's like okay, the dope unit at the sheriff's office has got 8 guys, canine, 10 canines. Uh, Traffic unit, it's like twice the size. It's just all that stuff. I'm like, I got to go for more. And it wasn't a promotional opportunity for me. It was, I got to go do more. And I knew that like that hood area was up there. And I'm like, I got to go work up there. Like, I got to go see this.
What attracted you to drugs, working drugs?
I don't know. I guess it's just like everybody else that has their knack. I think it was like the cat and mouse game. And again, when I came in 01, '01 and I went to sheriff's office in '04, it was still street corner dope dudes at the corner stores by the payphones, and it was just the ultimate game of like chess. It was just chess. Like you drive by, you're like looking out of the corner of your eye, you see the dude at the payphone, you see the white guy like pulling behind, you're like, oh God, I hope they didn't see me. Like I'm gonna go sit here. And it was just the chase of the and again, a lot of people knock dope, but man, to me, every crime is tied to dope. All your burglaries, all your now even worse overdose. But back then, it was like all your stolen cars. Again, I'm not Chicago, I'm not New York City. It's not like we have thousands, but all that stuff in our little community here, 250,000 people, was tied to dope. So it was like thieves and dope people were like, you steal somebody's shit, you're a piece of shit, and if you are on dope, you're stealing people's shit.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
smoking. You're smoking weed. You're smoking weed. I don't give a shit. Like, you can smoke weed. That's fine. But when you're smoking crack, you're stealing your mom's ring out of her drawer. You're stealing your dad's TV. You're running your mom's credit card up. You're stealing your mom's car and trading it in the hood for dope. So it just attracted me as far as like that type of cat and mouse game to catch these guys.
right on. I was just curious. A lot of times, people that get involved in the dope game have some type of either incident on the job or like family members, relatives,
Yeah, I can
friends,
see
like
where
shit
guys.
like that. Like they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah,
Like
no,
my aunt overdosed or my sister overdosed, I'm gonna go stop. And I think that's a lot of guys with DUI like that too. Like their mom or dad was somebody they know was killed in a DUI, and again, wasn't my thing. Not a fan, but it's obviously important. You don't
yeah,
drive drunk, so I just didn't like it. But but yeah, that was it. Just the cat and mouse game, and then the informant, even before I got into dope, like having the little street informants that are tipping you off, and hey, this guy's holding dope over there. This guy keeps buying. He's driving a Chevy Impala. You look for him at the store. I just got sucked into that.
same here." I mean, I have some background with family and friends that went down the dope avenue, but
Hmm.
so that gave me a little extra motivation. But I absolutely love it.
Hmm.
Like it's almost like for me, you're playing like a mental game with someone that prepares months or years in advance what they're going to do when they see the police, and then you get to
Hmm.
like disrupt that in about 7 or 10 minutes of just like having a conversation. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's rewarding.
And again, I've had people come up to me because I got really popular and again, I'm not a huge town. So when I say popular, I'm not like some superstar. I mean like it's a smaller town. So everybody kind of knows everybody. And it's like the dope cops, they know your car number, they knew who you were, they knew. But it got to the point where guys would tell me, like some of the guys that would communicate with more dope dudes would be like, hey man, like these dudes study you just like you study them. Like they know where you're at, they know your shift, they know your schedule, they know when you're working, they know where you're going to kids are going to school, they know what car you drive off duty. Like it was like, and all that stuff tied in was like, okay, like that's fine. When they're in prison, they're not gonna be able to tell you nothing about where I live. So it kind of got that like we can do that. Like that's fine with me. And I've had incidents where people have followed me around stores and threatened me and all kind of wild. And it's like,
Damn.
yeah, like I said, I always describe this town as, or the agency as well, was small enough to like everybody knew each other and you could get around and you could get promoted, but it's also big enough that if you just wanted to kind of disappear and go like do your thing for a while and be left alone, you could do it. Like you could kind of disappear into a zone and just kind of go do your thing because you get burnt out. We all do. Even hey man, I'm gonna take a week. I'm gonna take a month off from warrants and dope. I'm just gonna go handle calls. Put me out by Walmart out in the West Zone or something. Let me handle some retail thefts. Get your brain gets fried. But then it was also, so it was like a really cool, but everybody in this community, like they know you. Like go, it's still, even when I'm now that I'm gone, it's just, I walk in 7-Eleven and dudes are like, I'm like, bro, I'm retired, man. I'm like, smoke your weed, like smoke your weed, stand there, like, I don't care, man. Go at it, get at it. And it's like, it's still like that. So it was a weird place to be. Like everybody always knew kind of where you were. And I've had people tell me that.
How long did you work a general patrol assignment before you got to any
So I
specialties?
was 3 years at the city on the road, and then I came to SO and I worked another almost two. I moved in June of '06, so year and a half into my, I got assigned to dope. So I was like, total law enforcement road time was 4.5 years, and then a year and a half at the new agency before I got transferred.
And is that within interdepartment, the multi-agency,
Yeah, well,
federal?
it was at the time it was multi-agency, so we had it was 4 or 5 guys from the SO. We had 2 guys from the city, maybe a guy from, so we had Sebastian City, Vero City, and any River County. So we had like 3 agencies, and then of course there was the DA guys would kind of have an office desk, and it was multi. But at the time it was called MACE, MACE, Multi-Agency Criminal Enforcement, and it was everybody. And then it transitioned a couple years in where they went to just the agency. The other cities pulled out.
Was that politics?
Yeah,
It's crazy how
money, grants, who's getting money out of the seizure, what's the percentage, all that garbage that happens.
yeah, it's curious.
Manpower. We went through that, we went through that huge manpower issue like 2012, 11, 13, 14, that kind of like we were having trouble hiring people, and then the cities were having trouble. So they had to pull their guys out, but some type of politics.
Was that Ferguson? Is that when you guys started?
Yeah, it was that stuff. And then just, it was like a time in there where we just didn't, the hiring, we were short. I remember we were working 10-hour shifts. The new sheriff came in '08 and immediately went from 12s to 10s. And because it was 4 shifts instead of 2, it just kind of threw everything off, and we were down a while there, and we never really filled up like we needed to cover the 10-hour shifts. But he was a FHP guy, dead set on 10s, and we were struggling. And then like the city got low, and it kind of dissolved the unit, and everybody's pulling the resources back. There was a while there, I remember like 12, 13, 14. It was like 2 guys working dope for the whole county. It
What
was really.
were you guys doing, like buys yourselves, like undercover stuff, or were you guys having informants and just working informants up?
So here's again, I like everything else you say. Well, I walked uphill both ways to school in the snow. When I worked dope, we had the old box about this big with the antenna, the Kel. We had to hide it in the car, and if it was going to be tried in court, we had to have, the state would only prosecute it with an undercover.
Wow.
CI deals were good for 2 buys and a search warrant, but if it was going to trial, they wanted it UC meat. So I had to worry about dope, deal with the informant, verify the information, do a second one, make the introduction, hope that went well. And usually we use guys from neighboring areas because, again, we're not a huge county. So using guys within, we would sometimes get a guy within, let him grow out his hair, beard. He didn't work the road too long. Or new guys like, hey, you're going to come straight to the dope unit for like 3 months. We had a guy come from like some podunk place up north, and he was like older dude. he talked like this, and he was just from the sticks, and he literally did so many undercover buys. We were like, this guy's gonna be great. We had a pickup truck with cameras wired in the toolbox and everything, and he just drove around for like 6 months. Just so, but primarily in my era, we had to like rely on like surrounding counties or other city drug units to send us a guy with, hey man, we'll come over to your, like Okeechobee or Osceola County. We'll come over there for 2 days, and we'll buy for you guys. And then next week, you guys come over our way, and we'll kind of like share resources. So that's my dope days. All of our deals that were going to be chargeable and charged had to be undercover meets.
How long were you in that unit for?
About 6.5 years. I went from like '06 to like the end of 12, almost 13.
So you said your thing was crack. Was that the heroin overlap area?
Yeah, so the pill mill heroin. We never had heroin. Ours was the pills. We had the doctors and the oxycodone, and so we went from crack all the way through. Like I wrote I was involved in, I think I authored or co-authored about 16 wiretaps. So I got into that area as well. And my first like 12 were crack. And then I was involved in a couple pill ones at the end. But I, my, my big sentences and most of my big cases that went federal or went out of the jurisdiction were crack wires. And then the kind of like 10, 11, the pills came in, and we had another guy that really specialized in that. So I kind of like took a support role and just helped him out. And same stuff, same dope, same people, just they all transitioned to pills, and we were getting, we're getting annihilated with overdoses and just, it was really bad there for a while.
And that was legit oxys before the fentanyl.
We never had
precedents?
heroin. We had legit 100. They would have that standard concoction that was killing everybody. It was the 180. They would get 180 oxy 30s and the Xanax 2 milligrams, and there was one other pill mixed in. I can't remember these days what it was. It was like another muscle tramadol or one of those other was mixed in. I did undercover in a couple of clinics, and I literally walked in and was like, "Oh yeah, I play flag football. I'm running. I'm athletic, but my back kind of hurts." And they were like, "All right, here's 180 oxy, 200, 180 Xanax, and just hand you pills." And so we were getting that. And, it was guys were falling out left and right. What I was talking to somebody else about was what was really happening would be we would arrest these people. They'd go to jail for like 2 or 3 months, and they would detox. They'd get out, and they would go right back to that same dose of pills they were hitting before they went in, and they were dead right there because their body wasn't, wasn't ready for it after it had gone clean. So we were getting annihilated with overdoses in that aspect.
Why was Florida the epicenter of all that shit? Do you know?
I don't know. No, I guess I guess the doctors just opened the floodgates. It's kind of I don't know. I don't know what I mean. It started, I guess, down south. There was that all the documentaries. I guess somebody figured out the way around it, and the money down South Florida, it went wild, man. And I'm telling you, like we got finally at the end of my dope career, we had like a pill mill pop up in our county. But by then, in my opinion, they were almost doing things as legal as it could be. And it was really, to me, tough to say it was not illegal. The only thing we had in ours was a couple times people called into the clinic and, like you were saying, like my brother's abusing pills, you need to stop serving them. And I don't know, we had one case where somebody died under that aspect where they called the clinic to warn them and they didn't do anything about it. But by then they were drug testing the clients, making sure the stuff was in their system because a lot of guys were just going to get the pills to sell them. But in the early days of that stuff, you could go to 6 clinics in one day. It was before our database tracked your prescription history. So you could literally get in a car with a fake MRI and drive to 6 clinics in South Florida in one day and clean up, 1,500 pills.
That's crazy. What were they just paying the doctors like cash?
They're paying
okay.
doctors like the sponsor system. Doctors are busting people in. I know that like all this stuff was happening. Guys were being busted from Kentucky. They were like picking people in Kentucky and Atlanta and Jordan, and they would have a whole bus. Like it was a whole scam, and it was started like West Palm and Broward down there, where it was wild. And we were getting it was like what you do, like the interdiction stuff. I would go out on the interstate, and I mean, I'm not going to incriminate myself, but we would just look. If you were coming through with a Kentucky tag, you were done. You were getting pulled over for some violation, and every Kentucky tag was coming from South Florida loaded with pills. So what we were doing was getting consent and then back counting the pills. And where we would get them is we had two problems though. One, we would get them on. You just fill just a prescription for 180 pills, and there's 100 gone already, and you spend an hour. So it's like you definitely trafficked them and traded them. The problem was jurisdiction. The transaction took place in Palm Beach County, 2 hours away from me. So how do I have a nexus to Indian River County where I'm making the traffic stop? Even with the confession, I did it in West Palm Beach. Do you have jurisdiction in West Palm? So that was what we were having a huge issue was here's 100 pills missing out of 180 already. Prima facie is there, but now where did it happen? So we were like, I remember making an arrest on that. I didn't even think about it. Like, hey, this dude just admitted to trafficking narcotics. He's got 100 pills missing. Take him to the jail. And the next day they're like, hey, man, he traded them in West Palm Beach. And I'm like, oh, man, I didn't think about that.
What were they trading them for? Trading pills for pills? Or?
They're paying the sponsors. So I get you down there. I pay for you to go down there. You're going to go get your pills, but I'm going to tax you. I don't want money because you don't have any money. You're a fucking junkie. So I'm going to tax you 100 pills of your 180. You take your 80 pills and go chop them up and snort them, but I'm getting 100. I'm going to sell them for $30 a piece. So that's where the sponsors were. That was the whole scam. If I bust 100 people down and I take 100 pills from each person, I've got an astronomical amount of pills to sell, and they're just as happy because now they got 80 pills to chew on until next month when I bring them back. And that was like the vicious cycle of everything.
That's so fucked up. That's crazy how that worked. Early in my
Yep.
interdiction career, like 2012, we were seeing them come up out of Florida. Maybe that was probably towards the end of your guys' era down there when they started to crack down a little bit more. But I knew that was like, it was the weirdest shit. I didn't understand it till I started like reading about what the hell's going on. It was
Yeah,
nuts.
they were pilling down south. They were every corner, man. Every corner had one.
What after that stint, what did you do in your career after that?
I came back to patrol. That was 12, 13. I think I spent like 3 or 4 years back on patrol, just working the street, and then I went into general crimes. So
Detective?
yeah, detective, basically. And we didn't have like a breakdown. There was economic, and then it was kind of like the rest of the guys were just general. So before they really structured it like major crimes, homicide, which is more how it is now. Back then, it was just these guys work echo because they're good at subpoenas and all the bank garbage, and then these guys work just a rotating schedule. And if you were on call, you got a homicide. If you were on call, you got a sexual battery. Now it's way more structured with like the special SVU and the child porn unit and the major crimes. But back then, it was kind of like, so I worked a few homicides in that time and just worked like general burglaries and all kinds of stuff like that.
How many years?
I did, that stint was 16, I think like right through 2018. Um, and I just burned out. I got sick of the same old stuff and missing going on the streets. And we kind of had an administration then that was big on, I always joked, big on church clothes. They wanted you wearing suits and ties and all the fancy shoes and all that. And I like to wear like BDUs and tack vests and go out and do stuff. And they didn't like that. So I made SWAT in 2018 right there at the same time. So I kind of like was like, okay, I felt like I was rounding my career out at that point. I'd done dope. I actually worked the sex crime stuff for like 6 months before I came out of dope. They moved me back to the station. I kind of did like the offender checks and the sex offenders, and that's a miserable job dealing with those dudes and having them tell you, oh, I didn't really do anything wrong. And then you read the file and you're like, this dude should be in a wood chipper. Like this guy's a horrible person. But they take a lot of plea deals on those cases when the juveniles are very young to avoid trials in court and putting them through the stress. So I had a lot. So I did that for a little bit. But as I got done a few years and made SWAT, I was like, okay, I'm rounding my career up now. Like I'm getting it. So I ended up going back to patrol for like 18, 19, 2 more years. I went back to patrol and then back to the DB again.
I don't know. Your personality, I wouldn't picture you sitting behind a desk and enjoying it for
It was
very
tough.
long.
And so the first stint, like I said, was very tough. When I went back the second time, I went 2 years back to the patrol. I was an FTO for 2 years, training all the guys, working SWAT, back to warrants, doing all that cool stuff. We were working 12 still. So I went back, which if we were, I'm sorry, we were working 10s. If I worked 10s, I was like working 4 p.m. to 2 a.m., which was to me was the best. You got a little bit of daylight and then you got the nighttime stuff. So I worked that FTO'd. And then when we had a change in administration in 21, and that's when I went back and they kind of changed it to it was way better. But when I went back from in 21 to the detective division, me and a guy worked kind of like hybrid, whatever we wanted. Like we were like the special assignment guys in the DB. They would be like, hey, we're getting murked on burglaries, or this guy's stealing construction material. We were doing tracking orders on trucks and cars and installing cameras inside houses and trailers that were getting broken in. We were doing some really cool stuff in that. Like I did that from January of 21 till right near the end of the year that I got promoted to sergeant.
That's more like real police work type stuff than just.
Yeah, that stint was great. I worked with a really good dude. We were really tight. We were on SWAT together, and they basically just turned up. We had a really good captain that was like proactive. He was a SWAT commander, our captain was. So we had a DB captain that was SWAT, and me and him were the two SWAT guys in DB, and he basically gave us go put guys in jail. Like work cases, you're going to get assigned some stuff, but in the meantime, if you're not doing anything, get in the unmarked, go right around, get some, like they had us doing like cool stuff. We were putting like trackers on um, chainsaws and leaving chainsaws in cars with the door window down. We had got hit with, those arcades got big down here. I don't know if you guys had those up there. We got big with, okay, so all of a sudden Florida becomes like the arcade city. There's these like legit, like illegal, but nobody cared arcades everywhere. And it's basically
Like video game arcades?
like arcade, like slot machines.
Oh, okay.
So we get inundated with these arcades, and basically they're 24-hour. At this point, meth has taken over. Crack is gone. Meth is here. Fentanyl's here. Pill presses, and now we got like meth monsters just in these parking lots of arcades, just all hours of the day and night. So we started getting slick, and I would put a bait car in the parking lot of the arcade and put a chainsaw with a tracker on it, or some type of equipment with a tracker in it, and like just wait, like go ahead, take it. And we were putting like we had suspects. We were doing tracking orders on cars and trailers, and construction got material thefts, and we started getting really slick. Me and him, we did some really good work. We recovered a lot of property, which in burglaries you rarely do.
Yeah.
But we were like we had a high rate of recovery, and I was working my informant stuff, but I was using it towards instead of dope. It was crossing dope, but like property crime stuff. So I did that from like January to December of 21, and then I got promoted to sergeant.
To get promoted, do you have to move out of the bureau, or do you have to take promotion?
Yeah,
there
I got
it's
promoted.
open?
You don't have to, but at the time there was a patrol sergeant spot open, so I was promoted to sergeant on patrol, and I went and worked patrol.
Is that so? Do you guys have corporals? Or you go straight sergeant, lieutenant?
Corporal is an FTO, so they're not ranked. They're not
Okay.
ranked as far as you give your corporal, like we would do like in our agency, if your call sign ends in 80, you're a sergeant. If your call sign ends in 90, you're a lieutenant. So like 1180 would be like the day shift North County sergeant. Then we had like an 1170, which would be like the corporal. And what we would do is like all the FTOs were corporals, but we would take like one FTO a month and say, you're going to be 1170. I'm not going to pipe up unless it's something significant. If a pursuit breaks out, I expect you to jump in. You're the corporal, like make it happen. And he wasn't paid promoted. He was getting FTO pay, but he was being looked at as like a potential supervisor. So we kind of gave them some responsibility.
Like yeah, on the job training, I guess, as a supervisor.
Yeah, you're letting them, letting them make calls, and these guys are usually senior guys anyway, and good cops, so they're making calls, they're showing up at the scene, making sure the crime scene's looking good, and and barring something really serious, we kind of tried to stay out of it and let them do it. And I couldn't kick dope and warrants even as a sergeant. Like I worked for the best lieutenant in the world, my best friend, and he was a SWAT guy lieutenant, best cop I've ever worked with, Christian Matheson, and he was my lieutenant. So I was basically like just another. I was out there chasing dope down,
That's
and
awesome.
as a sergeant, like, and again, I looked at it like you can never complain that I'm not working, because I'm the first one on the radio. I'm traffic. Something breaks off and I had to do, sergeant stuff, I would go like, homicide or a crime scene or something, and make sure all the resources were there and needed. But when I was my free time, even as a supervisor, I used to hang out by the LPRs and watch for suspended licenses and stuff like that, and catch those guys.
Nice. And then you ended your career on that, I'm guessing?
No,
Okay.
it gets better. I so I get promoted in December, and like 21, like October of 22, I get a call. So I think it's October, maybe September, from the sheriff, the undersheriff, and the deputy chief. And they're like, hey, we're going to start a street crimes unit, and we want a supervisor, and we want you to do it. And I'm like, I knew what comes with that. I knew it was going to be like under investigations again, even though it's street crime. And I'm like, I, hindsight, I wish I would have said no, because I liked doing what I was doing. I liked patrol sergeant. It was really cool, but I felt like loyalty and obligation when somebody like the sheriff, undersheriff, and deputy chief call you to ask you to do something. And I was really close with them at the time. So I took that, and I think that was a regret, because I got sucked back into like Monday meeting and captain and all this, how many stats, what is it like, just back to like all the stuff that I had like been tired of in the DB and all that stuff in Detective Division. I had to go like relive it all. Now as a supervisor, and that's where I kind of really started to see the bureaucracy and politics and how decisions were made and how overtime was allocated for like burglary details that wasn't really, to my opinion, based around crime. It was based more around how do we make the most money or how do we like work these extra hours. And I just saw a lot of things I wish I didn't want to see, and I wasn't a fan. And like I said, it was cool as shit. I was on the U.S. I got reassigned. I was on the U.S. Marshals Task Force, so I'm in the Fugitive Task Force. I have jurisdiction from here to Miami. I'm at meetings. We're going on. I could jump in the truck and drive all the way 2 counties south and be on a fucking raid for a wanted guy from homicide. Like all that side of it was cool as shit. But I didn't enjoy going back to that DB life of meetings and garbage, what I call it. Just some, there's all the detective memes. I make them, I joke about it, but there really is some level of just sometimes there's some level of junk.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
I wasn't excited about it.
How many guys did you have working, guys or girls?
I had two. I had two guys. One had a non-bite canine, so we had a drug dog, and the other guy, all three of us were on SWAT, so we always respond to SWAT together. All three of us were on the Marshall Task Force, and we worked with Martin in St. Lucie. So when we would group up, there was like 12 or 15 guys on this task force, and we were doing. I mean, it was awesome. We were doing, all the tracking, phone tracking stuff. When these guys got warrants, we were doing the trigger fish and all that stuff, and tracking these guys down. Awesome stuff, but they tried to like halfway through, they want to put my two guys on call. Neither of them had any investigations experience. Now they want to put them on call for like call outs for like deaths and all. And I'm like, they didn't sign up for that. And that's when I started to have a lot of headbutting with the agency because I'm like trying to stick up for my guys. Like, that's bullshit. That's not what they signed up to do. And I basically was told, shut your fucking mouth. We're going to do whatever you want. And your guys are going on call. I volunteered most of the time because I'm the only one of the three that had DB experience. So I would be like, dude, I'll take your own call. Like, if you get called in, just call me. I'll go, or I'll go with you. Because again, these guys are really good cops. They didn't want to be detectives. They signed up to be warrants or street crimes. And you should be well rounded. But again, you don't. If I'm the baker at Walmart, you don't stick me in the deli or the meat department. I'm not a baker.
Right.
I'm a baker. So I kind of ran into. That's where I started to have a lot of headbutting with the agency over the decisions that were being made.
That sucks, especially
Yeah.
if you had a friendship or relationship with them, and
Yeah, it started to falter right around there.
I can imagine. And then how? So I'm finished there, or did
No,
you?
I'm a very transparent guy. So I made an arrest in November of 2022. It was a pursuit that ended in a kid's front yard. I arrested the kid. His dad ended up flapping at the gums, and I took his dad to jail. Very insignificant incident in my life as far as the call. And I'm not going to go into the politics and everything that I think of what I know happened, but I ended up in an IA over it, and it wasn't a complaint from the suspect or his dad. It was an internal. I think I'm a firm believer it was an internal headhunting mission, and I ended up in a IA that started in January of 23. Never put on administrative leave. Never relieved the supervisor duties. Stay in my position from January till June under IA for 6 months, and finally get called in one day and say you're demoted from sergeant back to detective. And
Damn.
that 6 months where I end up retiring in September of this year. So I'll tell you, then it's 24. So June of 23, I get demoted. But that 6 months started that process where I know a lot of cops have trouble leaving the job abruptly or retiring, and they get like. I kind of looked at it like my career started to end right then, and getting hosed for, again, it's on the news. I'm sure people are gonna look it up when they see this, and I have no problem with that. I don't think it was my best work. If anything, I think my tactics sucked. I kind of got sucked in and ran up to the car and ripped the guy out, but I didn't deserve to be demoted. And they hyped it up at the agency and they were telling guys, oh, wait till you see this video. It's going to be a god awful worst thing you ever saw and this and that. And anybody that didn't not like me, like there's people that didn't like me that, oh, this is terrible. Like people that genuine, people that I'm not really friends with came up to me and they're like, nah, bro, like that's not, it wasn't your best work. But, and a lot of guys like, I probably would have put you on a desk and kept you as a sergeant, like brought you in for a couple months, maybe calm down. And there was some other stuff that I don't, in my personal life and actually with the agency that me and my family went through as far as an internal affairs investigation that was pretty significant. Nothing that we did, something that happened to us. So there was a lot of mental things going on there with me, and I feel like I'm not one to go, use that as an excuse. I'm not, but hindsight for me was I probably wasn't doing the best mentally. I was performing, I was doing my job, but when you go through trauma, like anybody else who goes through a bad call or trauma, there's always some lingering effect of that. And um, definitely, it wasn't my best work. I'll tell you, like it wasn't my best work, but it was not what it was pinned up to be. And I was actually, they added charges in after my interview and charged me with like ethics violation, almost like I put the community in danger and I'm a danger to the people. It was wild. And it was pretty wild what happened. But I say this with utmost confidence. They saved a lot of years off my life because that life I was living, that hard charging, crazy, like just, it's funny. The day I got the charges added, I got called like, hey, can you come to the captain's office? And after my I interview, they actually added another group 3, which is the highest level of the ethics violation for, I don't know how I earned an ethics violation in an interview. I came from double homicide takedown in the next county over with the marshals, like on the hood, ripping a guy out of the car. They shot somebody the day before. Like I went from that to like sitting in the captain's office. Hey man, by the way, they added another charge. I have to serve you with this extra paperwork. And I'm like, whew, what a day it's been. Like it's been a hell of a day. So again, I hold myself very accountable. I'm not, and again, I could have avoided this topic altogether and I could just breeze through it. I'd never say anything, but I don't mind talking about shortcomings and downfalls and things that, I think coming back from things and being down and come back is very important for people to realize you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do dumb things. You're going to cuss. You're going to say things. And so I end up going through that. I get pretty much buried on a desk and I finished my career in the real-time crime center. I don't know if you guys have those up there. It's kind of one of those things that's taken off. Basically, I get assigned to this. It's really cool. I work with all civilians, which is great because civilians are way better than cops. I end up in this room with all the analysts, and basically we had this big wall of like 8 TVs, and we're monitoring all the flock hits. We're monitoring the in-car cameras and the body cameras on hot calls. We got into like here in Florida, you can enter a vehicle as a felony vehicle. So let's say a car takes off in a pursuit. I don't know if you guys do that or like car's involved in a birth. So we not many agencies in Florida do that. Like Broward County down by Miami, they were big on it. None of the surrounding agency did. So I actually brought that into the crime center as a new thing for the agency where we would have these like shoplifting rings go hit like Best Buys and all this stuff. And we started entering those vehicles and I was in charge of like monitoring them. And if, they found it in Orlando or Miami the next day, I was coordinating the detectives to get a search warrant and go down there. So the last like year of my career, I spent doing the real-time crime center stuff, which was probably one of the coolest jobs I actually ever held. It sounds like really nerdy and sitting around, but it was actually really cool.
No, I think that's the policing the future. I love those, and I love the analytical type of work.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, no, I want to go back to you mind talking about your IA for a minute?
No.
Did they go and watch your body cam since there was no complaint outside of that, or
Yes.
what?
So again, there's a trail, and I made the arrest November 17th because I'll never forget it. Submit the report, submit my body cam for the state, do everything I normally would in arrest, no worries. A month later, it's watched by a lieutenant that's not in my chain of command in any way, shape, or form. The next day, a captain completely outside of my chain of command watches it for the next 3 weeks and then submits a memo in the beginning of January that just says, please review this incident reference to possible unbecoming conduct issues. what normally happens and what's supposed to happen is it would get assigned to your direct supervisor, and like they have an opportunity to watch it and determine does it go to IA. That whole chain was bypassed. And again, I don't want to go into details about that, but the people involved in that were also involved in another incident. And again, that's very uncommon for that to happen. And then the charges that came from it, again, they charged me with use of force. First, they charged me with choking the guy. So they had me for use of force using a legal chokehold in a non-deadly force situation, which I didn't. I used a crossface. And then they had me for like job knowledge and like some other group three. Like the group three was the big one, was the use of force, and then two others. After my interview, I interview and I defend myself in my interview. This is what I did. This is what I did. You know, like a 2 hour interview. I get served with the new charge of ethics, which is that big word, big code of conduct thing that's massive, where basically, you know, never ever in history of my agency has anybody been charged with that. We've had guys like sexual battery complaints. We've had guys with like illegal use of force complaints that were sustained. We had guys get caught stealing stuff on calls. Never has anybody been charged with. And again, I'm not this. I don't want you to think I'm playing a victim here because
Yeah, no.
again, like the accountability of the call again wasn't my best work. It was definitely I was sucked in. I kind of got too a little excited, but it wasn't to the level of ethics and chokeholds and use of it was definitely blown out, and that's what they did. It was routed all completely different. And then again, you charging me with all these massive things, you would think I'd go on administrative leave. Like normally you're
Days
charged
off
with
or something, yeah.
you're gone, like you're home. And I ended up working as a sergeant from January to June, 6 months, nothing changed, same meetings, same guys, same high responsibility of street crime sergeant, same pursuit. I was in like 4 pursuits during that time. I was working patrol coverage as a supervisor during that time. All that's going on. So you're telling me what I did was so terrible, but 6 months I never lost, never got sent home, worked my normal job, and then just walk in one day and get demoted.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How big is that agency? I'm just curious.
Like 110-ish, 12-ish, 15-ish on the road, and then another couple, like 150, 200 in the jail. We have the jail, and our jail
Oh, okay.
is corrections only, so we have corrections. And then, so again, I hate sounding like conspiracy because I'm not, I don't think about it like that. I just, when something is completely different and un, out of the ordinary from every other incident. Again, should I have been disciplined? Yeah, I think that I definitely got a little wild, and maybe I could have been a little nicer. I still stand by the arrest of both people, but other than that, I'm like, I don't know. And then
Is
you
it
know, it
pretty
goes
common? Is it pretty common
what's that?
practice that like the someone outside of your chain of command would go and watch your body cam? Is that
No,
pretty common? All
no,
right.
no. There was
That's my last question.
somebody there told them to. So I'm sure what my assumption, my guess is, hey, I was on this call with him, and he arrested these guys. It was wild. Shit was crazy. I don't know if they even said anything negative, but I would assume some type of conversation like that happened, and that person they told definitely did not like me and was like, "Oh, let me go watch this." And then from there, it went. It went. If IA is supposed to go this way, it went a hard right that way, and everything was different in that case than any other case in history of the agency.
Who ultimately makes the decision? Do you guys have like a merit board or something
No,
along those
sheriff.
lines? Or
Goes
just
no.
directly him?
Yeah, the IA guy. It was a female at the time. The IA lieutenant interviews everybody, jots it all down, submits a summary to the sheriff, and he reviews it and decides what's going to happen.
Wow. And there was never a
And
complaint from either of the other people at all, still to this day. There's no complaints. It was
no,
just,
because I actually talked to the defense attorney because I'm friends with him that represented both of them. And when I called to tell him what happened, he was flabbergasted. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Your case looked good to me." Like, this is defense attorney. If anybody's going to tell the people to go file an IA and you got something on this dude or sue me, which never happened, would have been his defense attorney. When I told the defense attorney, he was like, "You got to be shitting me. Like, you got in trouble for that?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, again, and I'm not there. It's kind of like the Tyreek Hill thing. Like there are people that watch the Tyreek Hill arrest and go, I watch it and go, fuck that dude's run his mouth. He told to sit down. He doesn't listen. I don't. I don't see a problem with it. You could always be nicer, but whatever. I kind of look at it like that. It's like some people will watch it, and but as I obviously I defended myself initially. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm obviously not in that wild state anymore, but I look at it like, could I have done things better? Absolutely. Did I deserve the punishment? Absolutely not. And then as people saw it, because it was going around, wait till you see how bad this is. Oh my God, you're gonna be good. And then I got guys going, hey man, it's like I was like on the edge of my seat for like 25 minutes and then nothing came. I'm like, they were like, where's the big part? Where's I'm like, you tell me, man, you saw it. And I had ironically, I'd never watched the news article till 2 days ago. I'd never bothered
I
watching
wouldn't
it.
either.
I didn't. And because I'm creating a YouTube channel and doing all this shit, I went down the rabbit hole of like fucking around on YouTube 2 days ago, and I ended up like clicking on it, and I watched it, and it was like your typical article on a nice cool day in Vero while these people were minding their business. You know, the kid was a fucking meth addict. He didn't stop. It was a pursuit. I had arrested him once before where he resisted and fought with me. He had already shown behavior of resisting and not following orders. It was like, but it was a beautiful day, and oh God, the birds were chirping, and here comes this fucking mean piece of shit, and I was just like, it was one of those, and I'm like, I'm glad I watched it, but it was like, whatever, dude, like it is what it is. Again, I look at that like that started the ending of this, and I'm happy with where I'm at and not being involved in it anymore because it's it. If you're in the job, it's a rough life, dude. It's a rough life to be that invested in that job, and and you're trying so hard to do the right thing and trying so hard to put guys away, and then you do something. Again, I'm not talking about shooting a guy on accident or punching a guy and unnecessary or knee spiking a dude in handcuff. Like all that's you deserve it. But I'm talking about like borderline. You're running your mouth a little bit. You're using the F word. You're saying this. Man, come on, dude. Like that's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
that's gonna
I mean,
happen.
I don't know the whole incident, but it just doesn't make sense. Have you
Like I said,
have you do you have a record of this? Like, is this like,
oh yeah. I have the whole file. I've looked at it.
no, I'm gonna say
3,000
like,
times.
have you been in trouble with that agency multiple times, or is this like a
No,
one-off?
that was the first. No, other than car crashes, which we all done. I think I had two or three of those, and then um, I got like a letter of counseling one time because I was in the gym at a public gym, and a dude took a picture of us standing at the gym, and he was a felon, and his baby mama got mad and like submitted it to the agency and said, "Hey, this guy's hanging out with felons." And like I got like a letter, a counseling letter for that, oh, and the TikTok. I mean, I'm not gonna hide from that. I did like Tyler threw him under the bus. I went through a really rough patch in 2020, and I had TikTok for like 3 months, and it got twisted up because there was rap lyrics in one of the videos that had the N word, and they tried to say I was a racist, and I went through this whole IA, and it was all unfounded, other than like the social media side of like against the social media policy. I had my uniform on in some of the videos, and I got um, the punishment phase was a letter of counseling, the most minimal counseling you can get, letter of counseling. But then they used the word suspended. So when they used the word suspended, the media got excited. I was removed from SWAT for the rest of the year, and I was removed from FTO for like 3 months. And so they made it like, oh, the deputy suspended and this and that. It was like I didn't get suspended. So other than that, that was really the only. If you look at progressive discipline, I had no use of force issues. Never found a sustained incident of use of force. Never anything unbecoming. Never any type of ethics violation stuff. So it was the first time I'd ever been really in trouble for anything. And again, I looked at it like I really let my guard down. I'm like, this is not. I can't imagine there's anything going to come of this. Like it's not. It's not like that. But I was surely wrong.
When this was all taking place, were you like thinking like, did I do something? Like did I like, I don't know, like when I
You know,
I worry about everything. So like when
I do
stuff
too.
happens, I'm like, man, did really, like, I can't fucking think of anything I did wrong, but like maybe, like, I don't know at this point.
So you know how things are unfolding fast. One of the things they tried to say was there was no probable cause to arrest the dad, and not go crazy and sit here for hours talking about the incident. While I was removing the kid from the car, screaming, I was yelling and screaming. The siren was on loud. Like the mom and dad came out of the house, down into the scene, ran right up a foot away from me, and she was cussing me. His mom was worse than the dad, but dad was right there yelling at me too. They're cussing, yelling, and the kids yelling. This is the same guy from before, which kind of heightened me because I'm like, this kid's obviously talked about me to his parents. I had to fight with him last time. I had to slam him into the back of the car. He wouldn't get in. So like all those things are going through my head, and it's like my again, the body cam is great most of the time, but my body cam is like forward. I'm fighting with the kid, and like that's happening to my peripheral, which you can't see. And at the point where I finally get the kid in custody, and I like turn to like take him to the car, the parents have calmed down and are kind of just standing there. But they had already, and then it continued once I got him in the car. But they had already, in my opinion, obstructed and interfered in my stop by running 40, 50 feet from the house. Again, if it was like the kid's always in trouble, so it's not like again, it was like a high school kid that's like never been in trouble, and mom and dad are coming out to figure this kid is a meth monster, been arrested. The neighbors, I know the neighbor. He's like, oh yeah, he's out all night taking cars. There's people coming. Again, do we treat everybody equally? Yes. I'm not saying he deserves to be treated any differently or unfairly, but just like there's certain you look at people and go, that guy's doing something, that guy's not, and it's like they came out like, so that part's not on video, and like there was like, oh look at the guy just standing there. And again, this thing got so bad, this IA, there was a paragraph where they broke it like, and again, Graham versus Connor, it doesn't, you're not supposed to do that. They actually broke it down to 139.07. At this moment, you can see his hand near the neck. 139.0, 1.0, you can see his hand move differently towards the like. This thing was broken down. Man, this is more detailed than like a homicide report. This is so
It's
crazy.
crazy as fuck.
And all that about the chokehold to only be told, first of all, they left it in there. And then it was unsustained. They went to a use of force expert who said, no, it's not a chokehold. And I didn't choke the guy. The old I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Well, I changed a little bit of jujitsu here and there, and I had him. I was kind of laying on top of him. I was using my weight, and I had my hand across his face, and I was trying to get him in custody. And again, somebody will watch it. You make the decision. I'm sure everybody's going to look it up when they hear this. I don't care. You make the decision. You can make fun of me. You can say whatever. Again, I'm not justifying that everything I did was great, but it wasn't demotable.
All right, let's we talked about that for long enough. I feel bad even bringing it up. What about your emotional status, like mentally going through that? Was that rough for you?
Yeah, and again, I had come out of a really personal, deep IA that I hope nobody ever has to go through. The one before that involved a family member, and that I had to put my dog down the same week that I found out about all that garbage with the IA and how crazy it was. And then like I come out of this one, and I'm just like that's when I had the moment of like, am I doing this right? Like, what is going on? Like, did I lose my mind? Like, I thought we put people in jail, and like, I come out of that, and it was very hard. It was very hard. I got buried on the desk, and it, I had that like, I had that moment of like, everybody's out doing this stuff, and my identity at that point, and it shifted. I was a cop, like, and you talk to a therapist, you talk to anybody, and they say, "What is your identity?" It's supposed to be like a dad, a husband, like all these other things. I was a cop, and I think that kind of helped me transition to this job is just a job, and it's very important to protect your teammates, your officers. Very important to be very highly trained and highly ready for action, but at the same time, when you get removed from that, put on this desk, and then I'm like, that's when I started having that moment. Like my this is it. Like I'm at the end, and it's time to start thinking about what's next and what to do next.
Like I completely right. And even though we mentally prepare ourselves for whatever we're going to see on the road. And I feel like even getting into this, even to this day, like the internal stuff, you just don't, I can't handle like that type of shit. Like my department's great, but you see it other places where like everything's great. You have 20 years plus of an amazing career, and then the last 18 months get turned into shit, or 2 years because something internal, and then we don't mentally prepare for that. I don't know. I don't anyways. Like if I went in tomorrow and my administrators were like, did some shit like that, I would like be fucking lost because I'm like, what the fuck is this coming from? So
It's some of the people
that's rough.
involved too. It's some of the people involved. It's like, and again, here's some of the I'll tell you some of the negative things I had that I shouldn't have done. A lot of the just like when you get in trouble, like your mom and dad yell at you, it was always like, well, I saw this guy do this, and I saw this guy do that, and this guy, I saw this guy knee spike somebody one time. Like hindsight, like that's how we cope, I think, in our mind, but it's not. It doesn't help. So like hindsight would be like less focus on it. It really doesn't matter what anybody else did. It's like, oh, that guy sold drugs. Well, I can, why are you arresting me? I'm sure you've heard that a
Exactly.
thousand
Yep.
times.
Yep.
Like, so I kind of definitely had the baby self-pity reaction in that way to like over, I remember this IA, I remember this IA, and like that stuff was, but I guess in you kind of cope however you can, and to go through it was like, that was like, I guess one of my ways of like really coping with it, but it wasn't very effective and it was very mentally tasking. And, I hung on for a while. It was, June, July, I would say not until about January, February of this year, about a year ago, where I really kind of was like, okay, like I went into the new position and I felt out of place. Like I said, the crime scene was great, but it was like, I described it as being like the offensive coordinator up in the booth at the game. Like nobody knows my name. You can't name like maybe two offensive coordinators in all football. You have no idea who they
Right.
are. They're very important. They play a big role, but I'm not out there chasing guys. But then I started to realize I can affect a lot of things from this position positively for the community and the other officers. And the guys really felt comfort in like what we would do is like on high risk felony stops and all that stuff. I would be on live on the body camera. So now I was able to communicate with those guys. They got their hands on their gun on like a felony stop instead of them going to their radio every 2 seconds. I'm like, hey man, I'm on the body camera. I'm watching. Keep your hands on your gun. And that's Flagler County had a really cool incident in North Florida up the rails up by Daytona where one of the girls working patrol encounters a suspect with a gun, a rifle. And she literally gets on the radio and says, RTCC, can you take the radio from me? And she just stayed on her gun. So she tracks this
Oh, that's
guy through the
cool.
woods. And that's kind of what we started to transition to. I was able to do that and I also knew where they were. Small enough county. I know what streets. I know what direction. They're in foot pursuits. I'm like seeing where they're no. I've been in that neighborhood. Like, so it really started to help. So I got that second wind of like excitement. Like, hey, okay, I'm done feeling sorry for myself. Now I'm really making an impact in the agency by being able to do this for these guys and help everybody out. And I kind of embraced that role.
No, that's cool. That's cool stuff. I never even thought about that kind of stuff, like logging in the body cam and taking the radio. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Good
Outside of the
stuff.
job, what kind of work or what kind of stuff did you do to keep your mind off of the job?
I'm big in the gym.
Okay.
Lift weights. I got into CrossFit there, kind of started to do functional fitness. I got into really just spending time, like things that I'd never do when I was younger, was spending time, just quality time with my spouse, like my wife, just like we do a lot of vacations. We do a lot of like spend a lot of time together. We work out together, go to the gym and stuff that like most people, oh, you're always with her, but it like worked for us. And we do a lot of like dinner and gym, CrossFit workouts together, got into jujitsu, started training BJJ, got into shooting. If you can believe this, a lot of cops don't shoot. So I was one of those old school cops that like the yearly qual was the range and like maybe one training day a year. Later in my career, I became, which everybody does at the beginning. I did it late. I became a firearms instructor. I went through like the instructor technique stuff, and then I started actually very mild, like for fun, steel competitions and stuff like that. And then I was on SWAT and got a little more, obviously, real serious about that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much kind of still what I do. Gym, I like to go shooting, um, physical fitness stuff, and like I'm a grandfather now. Actually, my oldest daughter had a 5-month-old now, granddaughter. So that's a whole nother world of like to think about is like
Congratulations.
now. Thank you. Yeah. So that's it. And I find now like later on, like I really put those things priority, like family and time off and going to the movies, going to dinner, going out of town, going out of town to dinner, taking them like a 2, 3 hour, drive down south and having them like just things that like take your mind off of stuff that I didn't ever really do when I was running the streets hard and just acting crazy out there. Just that's all I cared about was work, and I was able to like kind of transition into that other
It,
stuff.
it consumes you though. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's hard to break away from that, and then you realize that the reality is it is a profession, it is a career, and there's so much
Mhm.
more to
And
life.
it and it's tough because some guys will hear that and think, well, you don't care about the job enough. And I probably would have said that. You know what? You asked me that question 5 years ago, and somebody said what I just said. I'd be like, that dude's not serious about this. You gotta be warrants, drugs, and you do, but like there has to be some balance and that's what I think. Like the guys that leave the job and have a heart attack 3 months later, or 6 months later, or God forbid, I know it's big in our profession. Guys are turning their firearm on themselves and commit suicide, post career, where they kind of run into some mental issues when they don't have the job and the career. It's like it's unfortunate. So some of the benefits I'll say that came out of the IA and getting demoted and going through that was beginning to look at life outside of law enforcement and getting there mentally before just I'm here today. I'm going. I'm a cop today. I'm not tomorrow. And that I can see where I guess I can see now where guys. There was a point in my career, like I said, 9, 10 years in, dope running. You couldn't convince me there was anything more important than catching bad guys, and it didn't make sense to me. Like you're not going to take this guy to jail. Like you're not looking for a warrant. Like what's wrong with you? So I
I'm still
definitely
kind
was
of that
able
same
to.
way when it comes
Yeah,
to
and it's not
interdiction,
bad.
man.
Yeah, you got
But
to. Like we need guys. We need you. We need guys like you. You have to. Like that's what keeps the world safe, man. Is guys like you that just get at it. I mean, and I respect it.
I don't know. I always look at it too, like I don't know how many years I'm going to do, but cops on average live to the age of 54 if they do 20 years. The average male in this country lives to 73. I'm like, why I like, yes, I love this profession, but dude, I'm not giving up 19 years of my life to, I want to live till I'm 70 fucking three. I don't want to die when I'm 54. So I don't know. My ultimate goal is probably do 20, maybe 25 at most and kind of get the hell out.
Are you fully done at 20 up there?
I can. The problem is you are vested. You're vested at 20, where you'll get 52% of whatever it is, but you can't collect until you're 52. So I will be 45
Well,
when I
that's
do
not bad
20.
because ours is 55.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah. So I don't like that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You're pretty much like handcuffing guys that they have to stay until their age of 52.
Well, we were 25. Then Rick Scott bumped it to 30 for
Damn,
full
dude.
vesting, and then DeSantis brought it back down to 25. I'm a firm believer. And again, part of my reason for wanting a podcast and some of these things I see with the platform that I have is what positive things and that can I bring. And that's one of the things top of my list is at some point getting enough traction to try to bring that retirement age back to or retirement time to 20. I mean,
I
20
wish,
years in this job, 20 years in this job is just ridiculous, man.
yeah, I wish that there was a way that you could do like almost staggered pensions and like after 5, you could leave with this. After 10, you could leave 15, 20, like just so, and you can collect immediately. I think that's huge. Like you
And it
have to.
sucks, yeah, it does because here we're penalized. So if I leave like let's say me, I'm 48. I left short. I left at 20, short of my 25. So if I wanted to take my retirement right now, I'm penalized 5% per year short of 55. So I'm down to like
Yeah,
30%.
that's
Like
fucking crazy.
it's like $2,000 a month, or I have to wait till I'm 55, and that's 5 years, 6 years away, 5.5, and then I get full everything I put in. So it's like that's kind of where I came into the dilemma of what do I do, and I was a firm. I knew it was time, and I was ready, and I was very financially irresponsible as a young guy and middle-aged guy, but I was very smart later on, which is a good time to peak in that area, I guess. And I put myself in a position to be able to, and this page, I can't lie, this page has helped financially a lot, and other investments and stuff have put me in a position where I can actually put myself first and not be stuck because not everybody can just quit. I get it. Like we all say that, like you don't like your job, just quit. But like I feel bad for a lot of these guys in California and Washington and Oregon up there that deal with the Minnesota. These guys are dealing with. I actually got to talk to a guy. Another thing about this page is being able to talk to a guy. I talked to a guy who like was at the George Floyd arrest, like was working right down the road the day that
Damn.
happened, and the stuff that poor guy went through is unreal. He quit. He's ended up down here in Florida now, but like I don't know if you remember, but like one of the police departments got like taken over by
Yep.
like
Yep.
yeah,
They
yeah,
burned
they
it
found
down.
all they no they not only that, they found the dude's addresses.
Oh shit! I never
They
even
were
nailed that.
showing up at these people's houses, dude. Yeah. This dude had like people surround his house and like come at him. Like he ended up catching I don't know if it was a rock, I can't remember the whole story. He got smoked in a street riot operation, like keeping the streets safe. He got hit with something in the head that like gave him like smashed him up bad, and he ended up like in a coma and all kind of crazy shit. Not only that, they like came to his house and like came for like it was like all that's never made the media. Like the media never talked about any of that. But like imagine that guy. Like you can't do that. So like again, and 20 years of seeing, and honestly, I'll be honest with you, the calls, I say this a lot now after going through that IA and stuff, the disappointment and trauma from that IA and the stuff I went through and coming from people within the agency was more traumatic than all the shit I saw throughout the years. And I saw some
No,
pretty wild shit.
yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. Like and I don't know how it is, but we mentally prepare ourselves to see that. Like somehow we're like, this is what we're gonna see. Maybe just growing up and you see movies and shit. Like I'm gonna probably see this and I'll probably see that.
Mhm.
Nothing ever talks about how if you have that happen from internal shit where it is that detrimental to you, it is insane. Just a different. I don't know. It's like
It blows your
people
mind, man.
people you trusted turned your back on you, and like people that I would trust to save my life in a situation have now turned their back over something that I don't know isn't even I don't know. I'm trying to word it the right way. Like that isn't even as important as like
No, you
we're
never like,
taking bullets for people.
and you got and my buddy, my best friend, the whole IA, he's like, dude, he's like, I'm telling you, they're coming for you. I'm like, no way, this is garbage. It's never gonna happen. And every step of the way, everything that happened, the added charge as it kept going, he's like, bro, he's like, they don't do that for no reason. This is different. I'm telling you, like he kept saying that, and I'm like, there's no fucking way, dude. Like, good cop. I'm like, I bust my ass. I'm like, it's not gonna happen. And when it did, I was like, I'm like, this is insane. So, like I said,
But
it's again, I'm not absolving myself from everything. Like I said, again, it wasn't like the call I would like. I wouldn't want, I wouldn't want that to be the call that defined my career on either way. But it wasn't that, it wasn't that bad.
I also go back a little bit. I feel like cops undervalue their ability in the private sector. So I always feel like cops, like, I don't know, this is all I know what to do. I'm like, you could talk to people all day, right? Like, I think that cops would probably be the best, like, salesmen. They could be like I don't like, they can do so much. They can lead, like, they can be leaders. They could be like, man, they just walk into businesses and have this interpersonal communication that they're trying to train other people to do. You walk in the door having it. So,
You know where it's huge, right now, and it's hard to get in though, is with those companies like Flock and Axon, and
oh, I can imagine.
I don't know if you guys use Fusus.
Mm-mm.
Fusus was just bought by Axon, but Fusus was basically it's kind of like one program that integrates all the rest. So if you have your Axon, you have your Flock, you have your own cameras out, CAD, Fusus throws it all into one screen. So you got your map, you see all the guys' body cameras, you see all the calls, you can hover over a house to detect the property appraiser websites integrated. We
Wow.
had like Carfax integrated, so we're getting LPR hits and it's running the Carfax in the car at the same time. Like so, Fusit, but another huge company where my first realization of what you just said was I was sitting in a meeting for Flock and I'm listening to the guy and he's like, guy named Eric from Georgia. And I'm thinking, how does this guy get this job? And I'm like daydreaming, like they're talking on, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm a 12-year cop from Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. I was on SWAT, and he's like, so rattling everything off, and I'm like, this is exactly what I did. And I'm like, man. So I like the meeting ended. I couldn't tell you what they talked about. That one word. I called that dude immediately. I'm like, bro, like how the fuck do I get a job? Like, but what I found is because I linked it, I've applied at Flock like 45 times, and I have a great resume. I mean, I might be a moron, but I have a great resume on paper. And if you don't know somebody, you're not getting in.
Damn.
I've talked to like the CEO, I've DM'd them, I was active on LinkedIn, like DMing the director, like, hey man, check my resume. Like I worked with your program for 2 years. Like, please, please, please. You got to get lucky. But yes, overall, I mean, even with this job, like sales and talking to people, like I believe one of the big things about this page blowing up and the way it has is the interaction, interpersonal skills of like, I, I, I answer every single DM. It's
Same here.
it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I interact, and I've made some really good friends on here, and I've made some really good contacts, and I've made some really sad contacts with these guys getting killed and becoming friends with their buddies and trying to help them out. But that's one thing I think that I've succeeded when I tell people locally, like, yeah, I run a sales company, and they're like, you're a cop. How do you do that? It's like interpersonal skills, like being able to talk to people, being customer service friendly, being like nosy. Like what are cops your job? I remember one of the first things they told my wife when she became a cop is you're getting paid to be nosy. You should always be
Yep.
nosy. Oh, so I just keep that. Like, hey, what are those people talking about? Like I wear my dogs over people hoodie everywhere. I have like 10 of them. And everybody walks up. I agree. As soon as they open the door. Oh, really? It's my company. Here's the website. Like here's how you get a shirt. And it's worked. They're all over my gym. It's spreading everywhere. People are buying them. I walk in the gym tonight and it goes off. Oh, we bought 2 hoodies. So like that
That's awesome.
interpersonal customer service type thing has helped me in this field as well as like sales and communication.
How did the Copville thing come to fruition?
IA. So
Really?
yeah, I'm going through the IA. I get banged. I start the pay. I got banged in June of 22. I get the demotion. So like I go through the shell shock and all the whatever and the pain and like it wears off like January, February. So 10-8 memes was one of the first pages I followed, like on my personal page, and I remember seeing the memes. And I started making memes about the agency and send them to my buddies and all that stuff. And they're like, bro, this shit's hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of pain and suffering in these memes. So I remember sending a couple to 10-8 memes, and he says, bro, you're pretty good. Like it's funny. He's like, you should start a page. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a tech guy. I know nothing about editing any videos. I'm like, so I think my first meme was that it was the Titanic scene of the ship going down. And I was like, when admin is the building falling apart and everybody's quitting and admin's just standing here like everything's okay. And then I never met 10-8 memes and I know he's gone now. I don't know. I think he's from like Daytona area, maybe.
I got his number if you want to reach out
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah. So he started collabing them and they were grabbing huge traction and like they're getting for a page with like 50 followers 100 followers, he was like collabing like every one and they were going pretty good and it just took off. And like I said, I don't know why my page of I think there's a lot of good pages out there with some really good stuff. I don't know why this one went as fast as it did. I mean, I went from 0 followers in May of 23 to 125,000 followers, just short of 2 years completely on the page. And I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
growth. That
Like I
growth
said,
is.
some of that, there's always the guys that say I bought followers. I love those jokes and the people that get real bent up about it. But kind of like I addressed that on Anti-Hero, and there's just where I'm at now, being able to affect donations and money for guys. What's the point? Like
Yeah.
if I had 20,000 followers or 120 or 520, they don't pay, it doesn't get I don't get paid based on followers. I don't
No.
get paid based
Makes-
on content. I'm selling stuff. So if if I wasn't like who would buy it? If there were fake followers, how would I make any money? And I never got, I never thought I would sell anything either. Like, all this came completely out of nowhere. Like I never dreamed of selling anything. I didn't. It just took off.
So is that giving you the flexibility that you could have left the job sooner then?
Yeah, it's
Nice.
doing really
That's
well.
awesome.
I haven't touched any of the money, but I've made a lot of money, and I I pay my guy. I got an art guy and a partner that's up in Maryland. He does all the designing and artwork. I use Great American Sweatshop for my sticker printing. He's a fireman up in Pennsylvania. We do a lot of projects together, but like I buy the stuff, I pay my guy for his time and all the stuff he does for me, and then I just let it. I'm trying to like start the second company with Dogs Over People. My thought on Dogs Over People was I did the hoodie and the traction it was getting, but I was getting, I always joke like everybody loves dogs, not everybody loves cops. So like I'm sending people to Copville website to buy this hoodie, and the first thing that pops up is Donald Trump in a crown, and they're like, "Oh God!" Like So I'm in Seattle, like at the Seattle airport when I went on a cruise in October, and I got all kinds of people in Seattle walking up to me because I'm wearing the hoodie, and I'm like, I can't send them to Copville website. Like they're not going to buy anything when they see that. So that was where I started the second company, and it's doing well. The second company's doing well, and the Copville's doing excellent, and it's been able to help me transition outside of law enforcement as far as finances.
That's badass, man. Happy for you.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
thank you.
And then aspirations for the future. What are you looking to?
So I'll tell you what happens with not being a businessman. You get really scatterbrained and you have so many ideas. And I can tell you, like, everybody wants a sticker. Oh, you need to make this one. You need to make that one. And I would love to do like one sticker here, one sticker there. It doesn't work like that. Um, but I try to keep up with design. So my future is continue to grow the merchandise side as far as hats, shirts, stickers. Um, I'm already have the engraving thing set up to start custom engraving wallets. I actually bought like, the digital scales all the dope guys carry. You can actually, I have one. My phone's actually sitting on it. Maybe I'll flash it before we go. I actually have the Goon for Life NWO logo lasered on top of a digital scale where you would weigh your dope. The wallets, like I have, yeah. So like your wallets, your team,
Oh, yeah.
like your Ridge wallet. So there's my Goon logo on a Ridge wallet. Like I have all that lined up, and I wanted to get to it a while ago. But my buddy that has the laser runs a called Upscale Detail here in Vero Beach. He does like the coatings on the outside of cars and stuff. He got into laser because he wanted the laser, the real nice like metal warranty cards for these high-end Maseratis and Porsches that are getting laser or getting the coating. So he has this like $10,000 laser, and I'm like, bro, like I know how to make money with that. Um, so that's like my next venture is like expanding the laser. We can do gun slides, we can do flashlights, handcuffs, handcuff keys, Miranda cards, custom, all that stuff. So that's another area. And then I know it's, I guess what we're doing now, everybody, I think it's like a lawn business in Florida. Everybody wants a podcast. I've gotten a lot of interest and a lot of people, you should do it, you should do it. And again, it's kind of like one of those things where I'm like, man, I never really thought about that. But because I think you got to be different, you got to be unique. Um, I don't know a lot of the people. You're one of, obviously just coming and people know who I am. I don't know the background of a lot of the people that do the podcast and stuff. So I did a lot of things in law enforcement. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of experience there. I don't know how many people want to listen to that. So that's something I'm kicking around to try to dive into as well and see if it takes off. Again, it's not something I have to do, but it's something that I would like to do. So
I think as much as, I don't know, there might be that small anti-cop sentiment. I think people love to hear backstories of success and failures, especially in law enforcement, as long as,
yeah,
like kind of like it's an ebb and flow and what you had to go through beginning the profession.
and I think a lot of those guys like digging up Jerry Worms is like those guys are legends, and it's like he's gonna, he did. I think a lot of people want to hear his story and hear about those days in Broward and chasing people down, and it's like a lost thing where that stigma with comps. You obviously, I get flack about the goon thing all the time. People love saying stupid shit that, like, I would never call myself.
It's because they didn't come up with it.
I would never call myself a goon. I explain it like wearing the hat or whatever would be. It's like a clique of guys that, like my definition, a group of guys that are highly motivated and doing things, but like a guy like Jerry goes and retires and nobody ever hears from him again, and it's like he's got so much to offer as far as like experience and stories, and now the guys are showing his videos at the police academy here locally, and like look how it used to be. So I think recognizing guys in an era where it was you weren't recognized. Like those guys weren't getting awards. There was no mental health options for these guys. It was go do your job, shut up, nobody cares. And it's like, like maybe it's time like we can highlight some of these guys. And I think they bring a lot to the table to hear Jerry's take on like tactics and mindset. And I mean, I think so. And again, so it's been really cool to like make those connections. And I think that's what like bringing those guys out to like talk. Talked to Matt Spina up in Connecticut that went berserk on the interstate, and
Oh, you did talk to him?
I talked to him. I have his phone number. I've talked to him several times on the phone. He's a great dude, and that story is even better when you hear his version of like what happened that day, what was going on, and how the unions are massive up there. Like he says, he left the stop within an hour. His union attorney was in the chief's office or captain's office, calling him like already playing damage control. And I talked to Enos from GSP, the old famous pit video of the F-150 where he jumps across the hood and rips the guy out in the middle. Yeah, like so I've made some really cool content, and I think those guys' stories is like really cool to like hear, in my opinion.
I think the podcast avenue gives you an ability to network outside the scope of the merchandise thing. So like this has been a secondary thing to me. Like I say secondary because the teaching avenue is what I really love. But now that I got into this realm, I love the ability to have these conversations with cops that I wouldn't have sat down and talked to you for 2 fucking hours. Like, we would have had like a
Yeah,
5 minute conversation. I would have known a little bit about you. Maybe
yeah.
over the time that I've known you, we could have had a 2 hour conversation, but cops don't sit down and talk about this shit. So I like having the ability for someone else that is doing something outside of law enforcement to tell their story and how they got there because it makes this whole like humanizing the badge. I don't like using that, but I don't know what else to fucking say. But it's like this is humanizing the fucking badge. It's like showing that you're a real person, that you go through the struggles that everyone else does, and then you can be successful outside of the job. That's kind of like ultimately my
Yeah,
goal.
that's a really like I never thought about that. It really is. Again, I think so because you got these guys like Hulk Rilla that's not a fan of mine. I'm not a fan of his, and you got a guy, in my opinion, that exploits does skits exploiting like domestic violence calls and terrible incidents that he recreates and to make fun. And I get capitalism, so I don't want to argue against capitalism, like make money how you want to make it,
But not
but
at others' expense. I don't like that.
no, not at others' expense. And again, not every, I guess some of my clapbacks is always like, I donate, I give money. And again, I'm not knocking if you don't. If you're making money and you're doing this for money and you're doing very successful business, you don't have to do that stuff. But I just see that as like, I don't like guys like him that do that. And, but if that's what you're going to do, I don't know. It's a tough line for me because I'm not communist where I'm like, you have to do it this way. You have to give back. You have to donate. You don't. But to me, he's over the top. And like, again, humanizing the badge it is a weird, wild term. And
I
I
hate
don't
the
know.
term. I truly do, but I don't
I,
know like how else to get
but
like what I'm
it
saying.
is. And it's like, I think the networking within the cops, maybe again, cops that I didn't realize how many people cops listen to podcasts. I will be honest with you. I'm not a sticker guy. I'm not a patch guy. I'm not a cop guy when it comes to wearing stuff. I'm not a podcast guy. But some of this has opened my eyes to like again, guys buying a couple stickers and having a squad of guys that are camaraderie and they're all got their goon sticker or they're anybody like a street profit sticker or a moons out sticker, whatever, all these other guys. Doesn't have to be me, but they have like a clique of guys that buy this stuff and they operate together and they have some type of camaraderie. That's to me is a very good thing. But to sit and talk, like listen to other guys' experiences and maybe they hear something like, oh yeah, I went through that, or maybe again, it's like the law enforcement side. It's like being a cop for the cops almost. Like let me, if there's anything you need or resources, like you might not go outside of law enforcement to ask for it or like you do training. Like I think training is huge and it's important to like learn other guys tactics and tricks. And I've only taken one interdiction class. I did it years ago. Like we do have 995 runs right through our county. So I spent a little
It's a
time out
good one.
there. It's very addicting. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Like you get your first pop. I remember my first interdiction pop where I got like 40 grand going to Miami, and then I got like anything else, you get hot on it. You're like, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. I'm gonna get every car out here, and you start popping people left and right on the interstate. It's definitely a cool thing. It definitely has its place for sure, and I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, I think these conversations are pretty cool to have, and I think the meme. You know what? Honestly, I think the meme stuff is pretty cool. I think a place to laugh, place to like joke around, poke fun. And again, I told everybody finally I was a SWAT guy because I murked the SWAT guys in my posts usually, but I am one. So it's like, it's funny and it's like a place to like laugh and they are. I think the whole thing is pretty funny. And
No, yeah, this profession has so much darkness that humor is a good thing, and probably most of those memes you've probably lived some avenue of it. Maybe not exactly, but yeah,
most of them have something, most
yeah,
of them have something to do with something I've been through or
yep, exactly.
most of mine, it's I'm scrolling and I see something, I think of something like, and I'm like, oh God, I got something for this. Like that's usually how it happens. And I'm like, I got it. This will be funny. But yeah, I mean, and I made a lot of good friends. Like again, the click stuff and the friends, like these pages, the State Boys. I've become really tight with him. Who's your 50?
That's my dude.
The trooper guys, like not the highway patrol, ED extract training, and like the not, the trooper's gonna troop. Like it's like I guess you kind of hook up with these guys and like make friends with them, and it's pretty funny. And like we become friends outside of the meme world. I have phone numbers and we text, and kind of like you and I now have been texting for the last couple of days. Just another good connection to have and talk to, and it's been pretty neat.
Yeah, for sure. I think social media is a double-edged sword, but I like what it has done. It's created communities of like-minded individuals that we probably like would never ever have talked outside of that. But it's a like-minded
Mhm.
individuals, and you don't necessarily need someone in your agency or your area that you relate to. Now you can have a community, and it could be someone that I relate to that's
And
in Florida, and then
I was torn about actually coming out from behind the face of like the thing
should
because
have
it's
wore a
like
mask. It would have been great.
um because there is a really cool place for those guys that can say whatever the fuck they want. Like obviously now, as the business started to progress, I was very big in the comments on other pages, like public pages, just talking wild shit and cussing people out. And I got my account like suspended when it was early on, and this is removed. That comment's bullying, and then I was like, man, if I lose this page, that like now that I'm making money on it, that's catastrophic. So I had to like back down a little bit, and now I got to think, okay, you're a business guy. Even the memes have to tone like there's a certain area like you gotta kind of like I posted one last night about smoke detector beeping, and it wasn't received well. And I was like, I started with the it's my fucking page, and I'm like, all right, like obvious, like okay, like I get it. Like in somebody like I gotta think business a little bit. So, but I do really like some of the pages that just don't have to worry about it, and they stay behind the page. And what I tried to do was here's the one thing I had was like I'm not as a you don't know who I am. I'm not going to argue tactics with you. Like I'm not going to go on a page and start telling you about CQB and tactics and breaking down a shooting. Like you know what? I'm here for comedy. If I want to talk about that stuff, I felt like I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to let you think I'm not going to portray I'm some expert or I have this experience behind a fake page and then and there are people I'm not gonna say his name, but there are people that do that, and there's pages that have that mentality of they're hidden behind a face or a page, and then they critique everything everybody does. Like if you're gonna critique me and you're gonna give me guidance and tell me what I did wrong, I want to know your qualifications ahead of time.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
part of my meme thing was I'm not gonna sit here and break down and say this guy unless it's a blatant one, like there's a couple times I got like the lady with the pot that the guy killed and throwing the hot water or whatever that was. There was one or two here or there, but I felt like I'm gonna just be funny and or try to be funny, and I'm not gonna get into tactics and I still don't want to do that. Like I said, even now, I mean, I have the experience, I've done all that stuff, but there's a million people breaking down tactics, and I think like street cop training and police one and who's the other guy? Surviving policing. Like those guys are big on breaking down things and let them do it. Like I respect their side of things, and I'd rather just be a clown.
That works.
That's why I have
Well,
the clown logo. So
is your wife fully supportive, and does she work at the same agency that you used to, or no?
Yes, she's similar. She's same agency, and yeah, I mean, she is, and you have to walk the. You got to be smart. She still has to work there, so again, I'm not going to just come on here and try. Obviously, I tiptoed through that IA stuff and how I responded to. I'm not going to sit here and throw names out and bash people because they have to work there, and my daughter actually works there too. So, but yeah, I mean, the meme that she was another one. I was like, this shit's funny, dude. Like, and she's one of the hardest people on the earth. Like she's not like she's an alpha chick. Like, acts like a dude, like tough, and she's not one to go, oh, you're really funny. Like if she says it's funny, then I know I did really well because that must be that's a level 9 or 10 funny. Because if I was a level 4 or 5 funny, I'm not getting any acknowledgement. So very supportive of it. But again, when I say supportive of it, she's not like doesn't want me bashing the agency and making her job harder and coming out here just trashing people and that's not what I'm here to do. Like I think there are some levels of accountability. There are some incidents that I want to cover with cops. There's one guy that contacted me about a cop down in South Florida that was doing some real wild shit that he didn't get in trouble for, and it's pretty bad to me. And like I said, a pod. Um, I don't think anyone wants to hear somebody just complaining about their agency in a podcast for 2 hours and just bash it. So it's like it's got to be entertaining. So and I think I've watched like a little bit of yours, and I think you do a very very good job of what you do. And then like going on Anna Hero, and they're at it with the military community right now and all that stuff. But and that's kind of their thing, and I think that accountability. But I look at it like that. That's my angle is like digging up Jerry Worms and digging up some of these guys that we've all seen on the internet and talking about things that people want to hear about. I guess that's the toughest part of the podcast is keeping it interesting and people want to sit and listen to it.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I still think there's this draw to law enforcement by the public, and they like to hear stories from cops. And
Well, that's why I think Keith Pearson is so popular. Like that dude is like he is a clown, man. It's so funny. It's so funny the way he acts. And I got to sit down with him on Tuesday, I think it was, and I posted that reel today of me and him. That was just one
the
small thing
sheriff,
we did. Sheriff, yeah, Keith Pearson from St. Lucie County, and we did like 37, 38 minutes. But he is like he's a good dude. He really is a good dude, and his mindset is like you would want to work for that guy. Like he doesn't care about like blasting those criminals. He caught hell in the woke stuff coming after him for like blasting these guys. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Like you commit a crime, I'm gonna make you known. Like I'm gonna, and that's like the one we talked about that we posted today was that one where they chase these guys down from like 5 counties and he puts the camera right on the dude and he's talking smack to him and it's like I like it. I think it's and some people don't. I think it's hilarious.
the Florida sheriffs are amazing. Because I don't know. I still think that like you have to stop crime, you have to have a fear of going to jail to begin with. You have to have a fear that there's going to be repercussions, and they are putting people on blast that are committing crimes. That's the fear of the right. Like, oh shit, I'm not going to go to Florida. I'm not going to go to this county to commit this crime because I don't want
Yeah.
everyone seeing my photograph
Yeah.
everywhere.
I'm one county away from Grady Judd and he obviously he gets like 230,000 votes every election. He is like unanimous. Like 92% of the vote goes to Grady Judd every year. And I
Society
look
wants
at it
it.
like that's, yeah, I mean, we shot him a lot. And he says all that crazy shit. Like who he holds their picture up. This is so and so. He shot at the SWAT team. We shot him, 116 times and don't do that. And like I said, Keith Pearson, it's very similar. Just this is you acting, this is your dope house. We're shutting it down. I mean, the video I don't know if you saw the one he posted. I don't know if you saw it yet. He posted one from today. He's out buying dope in a unmarked police car with a computer in it and lights on it, all subdued. But he posted a video today of a dude selling him $100 worth of crack. The sheriff is sitting in the car
What the
with his dope
fuck?
guys, and the guy sells him $100 worth of crack through the window, like leaning on the computer stand, buying it through the window. Like, and I guess he said he's got a couple more of those. So I like that mindset of you have a little bit of fun with it, but I think the community is shifting that way to like, well, everybody else uses it. Like how many we get cameras shoved in our face every time we're out of the car or somewhere.
Yep.
Like let's push it back. And he said that to me. He's like, they're shoving the camera in our face. Let's shove it right back. Like, you want to commit crime, and that's Seal. You follow? I know you follow Seal Beach PD.
Nope, I don't.
Seal Beach PD is in Don't Steal in the Seal. They just went viral all over the news because that social media guy is, you got to follow them. Seal Beach PD. That is the best run, most hilarious social media page you will ever see. And every time they arrest somebody, they put them on blast. They do a whole skit. They did one the other day. The punchline was there's that new Proposition 23, whatever it is in California, that made it like finally a felony.
Hmm.
And the two chicks are sitting in the back of the car, and she's like, "It's a felony," and the girl goes, "Bitch, new laws." And she's like, that was like the punchline was "Bitch, new laws," and they're like, "It's a felony now." And like Fox News picked it up, all these other people picked it up, and everybody's making memes about it. And I talk to that guy frequently in their DMs, and they do some hilarious editing. You got to go back and watch some of their editing they do when they arrest somebody for like stealing or pursuits. It's hilarious.
And then, so
So
that's
they're kind of
California.
like they're kind of yeah. They must be in a very red district because and he posts like the DMs, like it's hilarious. These people in the DMs like, you guys are whatever, this, that, and you don't you have anything better to do? And he'll post like a picture of a guy sleeping. He's like, no, I'm just here making memes, and like it is great. It is great. Like it's my favorite agency page there is.
Yeah, I'll have to check them out for sure.
Yeah, they're good.
What else? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, like I said, I think
Oh no, I got something. Sorry to interrupt you.
Law enforcement, first responders, military veterans, we see things and put our body through stuff that no one else in society has to deal with. We are good at coping with it mentally, but it still takes a toll on our body. Hormone replacement therapy is a great way to keep your body functioning as it should. And I'm not talking about walking around looking like you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just the typical body that we need to function in society with mental health, mental clarity, performance in all aspects of life. I have several family members and friends that have turned to hormone replacement therapy in order to produce a better life for themselves and their family. We are thrilled to partner with HPTRT, veteran and first responder owned company that knows what we are looking for and what we need. They actually care about the first responders, they actually care about veterans. They know what we're going through, and they are willing to help us in any facet of life, not only with the hormone replacement therapies, but also medical doctors that have partnered with major pharmacies across the country and willing to do any type of telehealth that you need. If you're feeling sick and you want to lay on your couch and do a teleconference, they will send medications to major pharmacies that they have partnered with. So if you need any type of medical assistance, from hormone replacement therapy all the way up until you just feel like shit and need some telehealth, HPTRT is the place to go. Use code RED, R-E-D,
to get 10%.
So the whole anti TikTok pages. I want to cover this. So you weren't the first, right? But you were like the second through the 17th.
No. You're outing me. I was the fourth.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the first one was when I came around, anti-TikTok 2.0 was out. He was the hot one. And I didn't know that he was using that platform to conduct extracurricular activities in his DMs. So April of this year, I'm sitting at Disney, I'm enjoying my life, and he gets popped doing dumb stuff, and family gets involved and all this stuff. Wife, soon to be wife, and some girl. Anyway, some girl posts a picture, basically says, "I know who Copville is because this guy ratted me out because he was trying to save his own face," and they definitely knew who I was. They mentioned the IA, they mentioned the TikTok.
Damn, dude.
And I'm like, I'm gonna get fired. Like Tyler from Anna here always told me, he's like, bro, if anybody finds out who you are, you're getting fired for these memes. So I actually shut the page off for like 6 weeks. I just shut it off, and that was right when I was getting ready to launch all my products. I had everything ready. My art guy, all the stickers were going to come out. It was beginning. I think I turned it back on in May, and I just like reactivate it. And I'm like the crackhead looking for the cops. I'm like, All right, nobody's DM me, nobody said anything, nobody's this. So then I get a message, and immediately anti TikTok 3.0 posts me on my picture of the page. Look, guess who's back? And I'm back. I don't know who that was. I knew who the first one. I know who 2.0 was. I have no idea who 3.0 was. And he ends up disappearing a couple months ago out of nowhere. And then I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. So I started 4.0. But when I started 4.0, I got a lot of interesting DMs in the same type of behavior that were like, and finally I had to tell a couple chicks, I'm like, hey, listen, I don't know anything about the other one. It ain't this, I'm not the same person. So whatever was going on, it ain't going on here. Got up to like, it went quick, got to like 4,000, 5,000 followers in like a couple days, a week. And I will tell you, I don't know what happens or how it happens, but it gets reported so much. I don't know if all the TikTok cops get together and have all their followers do it, but
Has to be.
it got suspended like 3 times in the first 2 weeks. And they were hitting me with like copyright and like showing dangerous gang organizations. So the original cop videos are fine, but when I repost them, they're not fine. So I only made it to like, I think I remember the night it got suspended. I was at the Pereira was fighting the second fight against the guy with the ponytail. I forget his name. He kicked him in the head and knocked him out. But it was at a UFC fight. And I looked down at my phone. It's like suspended. And then it was like, you can't appeal. It's completely gone. Blah, blah, blah. You're done. And I was like,
What the
fuck it. That DM was worse. Those DMs were worse because, dude, I got so many videos. So I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. And that was it. So I was just the 4.0 that only lasted like 3 weeks and got up to like 5,000 followers. I had no affiliation with the 2.0 or 3.0.
Interesting. That's crazy. That I didn't know. I figured that it was whoever. I don't know how many there were, but I knew that I knew who the first one was, and then I knew you
It,
were at
he's
one.
up your
So,
way.
yeah.
So the
I don't.
first one, like I said, I knew the first one, and then I didn't know the 3.0 was the next one. When I say first one, I only know 2.0. 3.0, I did not know who it was, but they talked like they knew me and immediately like jumped in to help and sending me things and texting. And then I finally caved and was like, well, he's been gone in like 2 weeks. Nobody's popped up to fight the mission. So I was like, I'll try it. Let me do it. And it's very well received and it's very well DM'd. You get a lot of videos DM'd, but Instagram is not a fan of it. And somebody gets it reported quick. And I got like I said, 2 or 3 warnings, suspension, right back. And on the fourth one, they were like, nope, your account's gone. And I was like, actually relieved. I'm like, I'm glad. I can imagine it's like I talk to a lot of these dope runners who say they get into dope thinking they're gonna make money, and before it becomes such a chore, and it's like they're not even making any money. They're just doing it because they're stuck in the cycle. That's what I felt like. I'm like, I post this video, gotta edit it, post it. Now I'm not paying attention to Copville. I gotta post this video, edit it. I was like, bro, it's gone. And I'm like, oh, you gotta start fighting. I'm like, I'm gonna start shit. Like somebody else can take that. It's like, you're like the only person I ever told
Oh,
that I
really?
did.
Oh
Yeah, that I
shit!
ran
I
the
didn't
four.
know that.
I don't care. Like I said,
Okay.
I didn't
My
have any
bad.
wars with anybody. Remember, I want to make it clear though, because 3.0 and 2.0 were doing wild shit. I was 4.0 only, and it only made it like a month, and it was gone.
I didn't know that. My bad, dude.
No, you're good. I don't care. I mean, like I said, I don't care. But
What is your
definitely.
your passion? Where does that come from with the dancing cops?
Well, I told you I got smoked. I was one of them. 2020, I go through like a divorce and I just hit the dumps and I made that first stupid transition video that everybody was doing with the bippity boppity boo fucking transition. So I was out of work for like a month on vacation. So I grew like back then we weren't allowed to have beards. So I grow this beard and I'm like watching all these TikToks and everybody sent them to me. I had it, but I didn't do anything on it. And I was like, well, that'll be. I saw these other guys doing it. I had no idea it was like how bad it was in the law enforcement community or like the meme pages because I didn't follow any then. So I did the huckabadoo, babidaboo, bippity boppity, and I like jump and I'm like go from like hoodie, big beard to bang in uniform. And because of the mental illness that I was suffering due to like divorce and attention, and you can imagine going through like something like that. Um, the and that's why I'm so hard, I guess, on them because it's dumb, it's stupid, it is. I'm very embarrassed of it, but in the moment, you don't see it. And even some of my closest friends were like, "Bro, what are you doing? Like, this is terrible." And I'm like, "No, I'm humanizing the bad." I didn't do like the skits and all that stuff. I made some really dumb ones, but I'll be honest with you. I said it on Anti-Hero. Like, I put my Snapchat in the bio, and buddy, it fills up quick. And
Interesting.
that false validation of like success and followers, and I would say I bet 70 or 80% of the followers on TikTok are fucking Chinese bots. They're not even real. I think my account got up to like 88,000 followers at one point. I only had it for like 4 or 5 months, but a lot of attention. And I ended up, like I said, I caused a lot of embarrassment. I ended up getting smoked in the media. And I woke up finally. I was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, this is bad. And so that's, again, kind of like the experience in law enforcement where who can give the most critique other than somebody who did it. The reason I do this is I see some of these people like Hulk Gorilla. There's the Haley chick down in Boca, that whole Texas cop, all those guys at LSG Madness, all these guys. It's like I didn't get into that exploiting stuff. I made stupid videos, I did, but in my head, I was telling myself I was humanizing the badge and I was doing it for the right thing. When in reality, I was doing it for attention from fat chicks, essentially. Like I really was. It was like it was false attention. I'm getting all these people responding, and I'm sure you get it too. Like a lot of like strange people will DM you, even in Copville, and I'm gonna be a cop, and I'm so. Some of them you can tell, I think, that are not wired right, that are a little obsessive behavior. So you get a lot of those people that are obsessive behavior that validate or give you validation and make you think you're some superhero or some celebrity, and you're not. And it really blew up in my face. And it's like everything else, I accept full responsibility. I was a moron, and
I
that's
just,
why I get hard on those people because I'm like, dude, it took a guy that wasn't even my friend to really snap it into my brain. This guy walked up to me one day at the agency and he's like, I was talking to like the secretary in the DB, and he's like, "You're a fucking clown." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You're fucking TikTok, all that shit. You embarrassed all of us." And I'm like, "Fuck you, dude. I'll beat your ass." He's like, "Fuck you." And I'm like, "I'm gonna kill this dude." Like I walked out of the station all mad, and then I drove around for like 2 days fucking steaming, like wanting to kill this guy. And all of a sudden I looked at myself in the mirror, I'm like, that motherfucker's right. And like not only is he right, all the people that are talking shit behind my back, he fucking walked right up to me and said it. And I
yeah,
called him and I was like, "Hey man, thank you." I'm like, "You really opened my eyes to this." Like I'd already deleted it and stuff, it was gone, but like I was still like, "All right, didn't do anything wrong. It was cool." And it took that dude because all my friends were like, "Bro, you're fucking nuts." I didn't want to listen to him. It's like when your friend's trying to give you advice or but you just don't listen to him. It takes like somebody, and it was that guy. That guy walked up to me and told me that. And so that's why I kind of like get on them because I know everybody in their agency is looking at them like they can't stand them. They're all embarrassed of them. They're all looking at them like call dodgers and not proactive. And they are. They're in their car filming and talking to the phone. So it's like they're not being proactive. So I was a clown. I really was. And that's why I look at these people like, dude, what is wrong with you? And I try to, I actually try to be nice to a lot of them at first, like, hey man. And I guess people would say I'm a prick. Maybe I am for like being so nasty to some of them, but I can tell you, I got hundreds of DMs of people from like, hey, this dude works in my agency. This chick works in my agency. Look at this shit. Look at this nonsense. Look at this. And again, it's not doing anything. It's not helping law enforcement in any
no,
capacity.
I think,
Training, fighting, marksmanship, case law. It's not helping anybody.
I think it hurt. I think it hurts, and it hurts not only does it just hurt the perception, I think it hurts because people that aspire to be cops now are going to be like, this is what law enforcement is, or the people that in your city, like you have all this free time. This is what you can do. Like that's where I'm like, man, like you're giving a false perception of what the job
that,
is.
and it also attracts people that thinks that's what the job is.
Right.
And they go, I'm going to do that too. I can just
Yep.
hang out my
Exactly.
car and like dance around, and then they end up getting smoked on a traffic stop, or they get their ass beat. And it's like, hey man, there's just a fucking dangerous shit out here. Like this is a real world. So
That's my only negative thing. Like I mean,
yeah,
that's
I agree with you.
that's where it's frustrating because it's just giving this false perception of what the job is and what the job looks like or what it entails. Or
And it's
I
a
guess, man,
serious job, man. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah. Take your life like that, man. Like you can't
Like I
be.
said, I'm in this little town, and nobody would believe we have shooting every day or two. We have like pursuit the other night. Guy's got a gun in his waistband. You know, we're a big pass through area too. We're not massive, but we have a big truck stop and people getting off here in the interstate. And we have a really bad city south of us, Fort Pierce, and that's really dangerous. And then we have like Cocoa and Palm Bay north of us. It's Brevard, dangerous, and we have a little dangerous area. So again, like every town is dangerous now. It used to be, oh, that town's fine. This town's not. I mean, it's everywhere. Look, Flock has. I think Flock has brought that to the attention. I mean, stolen cars that come through town and all this stuff that could happen. And it's a dangerous job. And again, I'm not saying you have to like stand in your underwear with your staccato and like draw stroke all night long. Like that's not the other answer either.
Right. No, I agree.
But dancing around in your car, talking to your phone is definitely taking away from. And again, we're all scrolling Instagram. We're all doing reels. We're all watching stuff in our car. We're not sitting there proactive 12 hours a day. But when you start to get the mentality that you're like some superhero or some savior to law enforcement, which is honestly what happened to me. I really did. I got sucked into that mindset like a moron, that this was something, I was doing something productive and it was great. And honestly, for me, it was validation for personal life disaster and some false attention. And when I came out of it, it was like, ugh, like I really felt like I see it now, and I'm just like when I talked about a podcasting coming out, I was like, God, I'm gonna have to fucking adjust TikTok, and I'm like, these guys that don't like me are gonna be making memes, and they're gonna find the videos, and I'm just like, oh God, it's so embarrassing, and it's like I
You're
told her, but
reformed now.
I'm gonna address it, and like I said, Tyler opens the live, like opens the live podcast with, I don't think everybody knows you were a dancing cop at one point, and I'm like let's go, like right in the fire. So that's how it opened. But accountability, self awareness, hopefully, like just like everything, I was very heavy at one point in my career, very out of shape. I managed to get myself back in, and you know, everybody says, oh, there's nothing better than a comeback story or somebody that keeps learning and adjusting. And I agree with that. You can't go worse every time and then come back, but you're always going to have setbacks and fallbacks. But getting up and regaining the momentum going forward is very, very, I think it's a very valuable trait to people. And it gives like, you got off track, you did this and this. Again, I'm not talking about killing somebody or playing dope on zoo or something like that. I'm
Right.
talking
Right.
about like
Yeah.
honest shit that happens. And it's like, how do you come back from that? And how do you become a better person and go forward from that? And that's kind of where, unfortunately, my life keeps circling like that. There's always a setback, but I guess we all have
That's
those.
life. Yeah, that's life.
Yeah, everybody's gonna have those, but yeah, how do you come back from that, and how do you improve? And one of the best things I think my wife has ever said to me, honestly, is she's like, I've never seen a grown older male be able to change like you do. Like you are able to, and I'm very stubborn. I'm very crybabyish. I'm very stubborn initially. Like the first time I didn't get promoted when I was on the list, right before I did, I threw a hissy fit and she grounded me and she's like, bro, she always says every day's an interview. She's like, if you walk in that building tomorrow, kicking the can, they're gonna look at you and go, there he is, kicking the can. He didn't get promoted, like he's out. So she always said every day's an interview. So I came home and I kicked the can at home and then I went back to work. Just like I think that, and that applies to everything. You have to like be aware, self-awareness, and like do like continue to perform at a high level and keep shifting in that direction of like self-awareness and getting better. And that's one of my, like I said, qualities was her telling me like I've never seen it do. Like I started training jujitsu at 46 years old.
That's
Like I could have
impressive.
done. I was like, at one point I could fight, I can do that. And she always says you just get lucky. And I agree. A lot of guys just get lucky. You never have that guy pull your card. You never have that call. And again, jiu-jitsu is, I have one guy that I'm really tight with who hates it because sometimes people do shove it down your throat too much and really over the top it. I believe when everybody's ready, but I am a firm believer in it. So I like started something and again, I was terrible. And I'm a bigger guy. At the time I started, I was benching in the high threes and I was strong. And these guys, I know they're like, here comes the tough weightlifter guy that's gonna what. And I'm strong as shit. Like these guys, you get annihilated by a 135-pound Asian kid, and you're like, bro, like that 350-pound bench press didn't mean shit in here. And like you have that humbling experience. But then when you apply it on the road, you're like, holy shit, like being able to take a guy down and have body control and side control and be able to manipulate the arms and use these techniques. It's like, man. So like I said, she always like, that's one thing I think like I'm willing to adapt and continue instead of the old cop way, which is this is how we always done it. We're going to keep doing it that way. Like, let me change a little bit. I wish my life would get some sense of like stay normal for a while, but there's always something that like, but at least I'm willing to like change and kind of adapt to that.
I think I always tell people it's like admit to your faults, like admit when you fail, admit when you, and I think that you came right out of the gate and said that. I think that that's a quality that you probably have to like, I'll tell you what I did to get here, but you got to realize like I fucked up here and I fucked up there. And, and it's always this revolving door of like, you use a circle analogy, but it's not going to be this straight climb to success. It's always going to be like setbacks and setbacks. You just have to be able to deal with it. And if you start to pout about those setbacks, you're gonna fall backwards. You needed like, all right, I sucked here. I'm gonna move forward, and I'm gonna do this to keep going up.
And if you get addicted to the right thing or like around the right people, like one of the things that really clicked was watching David Goggins to me. Like I know he's like one of the most popular guys at eat, but just listening to his mindset and get addicted to that. Like just like we get addicted to like eating junk food out of the cupboard or get addicted to the chicken rollers at 3 a.m. and getting out of shape on the job.
Yeah.
Like I have a very, sometimes I have an over addicted personality, and that's where I, got in really good shape and, changed everything. But like listening to guys like him talk, it's like, if you can, you're always going to lose track. Like David Goggins, and I'm going to, stay hard. Or and then there's days you wake up and you're like, oh man, fuck, dude. Like I had a shitty day. I'm going to feel sorry for myself today. But again, if you can overcome that and have that be a short burst and continue that like mindset of like being moving forward from a down or a bad day or whatever, that I think you get addicted to that feeling. And just like anything else, like a bad addiction, a good addiction is a good addiction. And then you have less bad days and more good days and kind of getting it like now I'm going on a cruise in a couple of weeks and I ballooned up like really bad between leaving the job and like all this stuff. I got really heavy and I was like, okay, it's time. So it's like just Christmas. Yeah, I pigged out yesterday. Yeah. It's like today was back to like normal. Like I'm not gonna let it go 3 days of pigging out and be like completely ruined like 2 weeks of hard work. Like one day is not gonna kill you, but you have to have the mindset like I'm going back to business the next day. So like same thing in law enforcement. You have a bad day, you have a couple bad days, but how do I get back to the good days and continue forward? Because you're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna have a bad day. You're gonna get in trouble. Like I said, you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna have something fall, not go your way. Life is gonna throw a curveball you can't predict. And how do you come back from that? And that's to me is very important to like continue to improve and work hard.
Keeping your circle positive too, instead of like every department has the guys that you could give them $1 million and they'd bitch that wasn't all hundreds or something. So you gotta be able to gravitate to the people that have a positive mindset more often than not. We're all gonna be those. So like if I'm in a negative mindset, at least my boys that I hang out with and I talk to, we all should be in a negative mindset. So like having that circle of positivity, it seems to always have helped me. Like I can call the vent and I know that you're not going to go down that negative attitude. You're going to give me something positive. And then when you're having that, it's all like reciprocated back and forth. So I don't know.
That's probably one of the most important things. And to hear it from somebody else, that really is like, that's one of the smartest things what you're saying. That is really a good way to look at it, because this job is very negative and we see a lot of negative things. And I know from experience, you get around there, oh, this guy should have never got promoted. That guy should never got promoted. And you're in that clique of people, and everything that happens is like, oh my God, did you hear who got this position? You hear who got that? And it's just you fall into that circle of like, and then you become like, I've been there. Like you're just
You
like
get sucked
everything
in.
happens is yeah. And then it's like when you get out of, I've had to cut people off. I remember having like guys I was close with, and I'm just like, if I talk to this dude another day, like when I made sergeant, I had a good friend, and I knew the second I made sergeant, he changed and he started complaining more to me about everything that was wrong. Like I'm a sergeant, I'm not gonna be able to fix this all, but like I had to stop talking to him because I'm like I'm really trying to be positive about this. Yes, these are things are all fucked up. You're right, but I can't change anything if all I'm doing is complaining about everything. So like I had to change the people I was around to get into that positive set and there are. Every department has that guy. Go that few guys that every fucking word is a complaint. Everything. And again, we're all going to complain. I'm not saying we don't do it, but there's just guys that you said, like you said, that'll never be happy. Every time something happens, you just know it's going to be a 20-minute conversation about how fucked up it is.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I distance myself from them. And if it's one of my buddies that's going down that, I'm like, we start to bust balls. I'm like, yo, can you just say something fucking nice like one time and then let's move on from this? Like Jesus. But yeah, there's guys that you just know it's like, dude, no matter what happens, and that's just their personality. You can't get sucked into that circle because you'll start to look at it from their eyes and be like, yep, this sucks. Everything
And you
sucks.
have to realize, and that's important to realize because you have to, like you said, disregard it because then you start to think, man, is he right? Like, is it really all this bad? And it's not. And again, there's people on the meme stuff. Like it applies everywhere. There's people that just
Yeah, it's
don't
society.
believe
It's
in
not
this
just
guy.
the yeah.
Yeah, and again, but in the job, it does get. And I think in one of my stints in the DB, it was a lot like that. Like we did a lot of complaining, and I look back on that, like a lot of complaining about everything that happened. It's like we're not doing anything about it by sitting here complaining about everything that happens. And but again, it's some of it's frustrating too when you see like asinine decisions happening, and you're just like, bro, what is going on? And yeah, it's a real slippery slope because if you just go fuck it, I don't care, like that's not the way to think either. But and then you're like, I can't change it. It's too big to change. Kind of like Trump talks about the government, or too big to rig. Like, um, how do we fix the government? It's impossible. It's so big. Well, it sounds like he's going to take a stab at it with that Doge community and all
Yeah.
that, but and spending. But it's like the same thing in the agency. How do we change? How do we do that? And I mean, it's tough. That's a tough one. It is.
Yeah.
And there's
I mean, it starts with you though. Like if you could say like, all right, you know what? Like I can't fix this, but I can handle this and this and this, and I'm gonna fix this to make this better. And then eventually, like hopefully that culture starts to catch on. One of my patrol commanders was amazing, and he's like, I don't care what you want to bitch about, just have the answer. So you want to bitch about it? Come on, let's go. But you better have the tools to fix it or what your
yeah.
mind is. And even if I don't agree with it, just come with that. So you don't like this, come with the answer of how you want it. I might not be able
Yeah.
to do that. I might not agree with it, but at least you're fixing a problem and not just coming here bitching.
Well, yeah, and my wife said was those are the ideas guys. They got all the ideas, but they have no solutions. Like
Yep.
you can tell me everything's wrong, but you haven't said one thing to tell me how do we get it going in the right direction. Like, what do we do? It is tough in law enforcement, though, man. It's such a big entity, and everything's going on. God, it is. It's a
It is.
strange job when you go through it as long as we have. Like, it's just a strange because Walmart wouldn't run like this. Like Target wouldn't run like this. Like,
Any private business wouldn't run.
yeah, they
It
don't.
wouldn't be
It's like
successful.
exactly. Or like I look at sports, and it's like you don't hire a guy because you don't. This guy doesn't start Game 5 of the World Series because he's nice. He
Yes.
starts it because he's the best guy for the job and he's got the best chance at winning. And it's like you see those decisions get made, and you're like, why is this guy getting promoted? Like, and it gets frustrating. So it's a hard thing. But again, if everybody's kicking the can, we're never going to get anywhere. So it takes some guys to like start that change. But it's definitely tough.
It is. And I feel like it. So my department's about a 70-man department. I feel like those smaller departments, if you have good leadership, it emanates throughout the department. If you have, but I feel like bigger agencies, I feel you would see more. I see it more locally on the bigger agencies where that negativity kind of, because bigger pockets of negativity. So therefore now I don't know, instead of having 2 guys, you have 30 guys, and that whole side is negative, and
Yeah.
it almost changed the culture of an agency if you have that many negative people within there with no change and no positivity coming in. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I usually try to keep these about an hour, and we've been talking for 2.5 hours, and I apologize, but I could probably fucking
No,
sit
you're
and
good,
talk to
man.
you all night,
I
man.
appreciate it. No, you're good.
We always end with one question. The law enforcement education side, our company is called Justice Academy. So what is your definition of justice?
To hold people accountable for things that are negative to us, to society.
All right, man. Well, anything else you want to talk about?
No, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, I think you do a good thing. It's nice to see like you take your job very passionately and teaching. And I've heard a lot of good things about your classes from people and how you teach and how passionate you are, how good of a cop you are. So like personally, we don't know each other, but I can tell you that your reputation is very good in the community of law enforcement and very good as far as your training you offer. So I appreciate you taking the time to have me on. And like I said, I've never looked at myself like anything special other than just another dude that tried to do the right thing and put bad guys in jail. And if anything valuable comes out of a conversation like this, then I think it's a win. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, without even this conversation, you're doing good things for the law enforcement community. I don't know, it's something I'm super passionate about. I care about the law enforcement community, and you're making us laugh every day. So that's always a fucking plus.
That's
But
a win.
if you ever need anything though, man, reach out, man. I'll help you with whatever you need.
Yep. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so
All right.
much.
We'll be in touch, bro. Thank you, man.
All right. Take care. Yep.
Later, man.
Bye bye.